She opens up the
All right.
door. That's my wife's car.
Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, November 12th, 2013, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business that may properly come before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Record Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, November 8, 2013, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Town Library, Town Clerk, the the Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of the meeting. We get a roll call.
Rich Matesic.
Here.
Lucy Beegler.
Here.
Ann Carey.
Here.
Mark Friedman. Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Roseanne Kerstead.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Here.
Gretchen Oleg.
Here.
Mitch Slater.
Here. Thank you. Mitch, could you lead us in the flag salute? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to go to announcements, and rather than our traditional go around the table, I'd like to start with one student announcement, very important announcement, and we won't make you sit through all the other announcements. I'll do this from the podium. So tonight, we'd like to recognize 7 Westfield High School students who were named National Merit Semifinalists for 2014. It's been more than 10 years since we've witnessed such a large number of our students earning this designation. This designation is a result of a competition by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, which is a nonprofit organization. The National Merit Scholarship Program uses the preliminary SAT score to screen more than 1.5 million entrants. Of the 1.5 million entrants, 16,000, or just 1.1%, are named National Merit semifinalists. They are the highest scoring entrants and are eligible to apply for National Merit scholarships. As you can imagine, our 7 students are very busy individuals. In fact, some tonight are rehearsing for the Westfield High School drama this weekend. But we are pleased that 2 of our students are able to make time out of their schedules to attend the meeting tonight. So with that, would Kristen Haig please come to the podium? Kristen has earned the distinction of a National Merit semifinalist. In addition, she maintains a 4.0 average at Westfield High School and has earned perfect SAT scores in both chemistry and writing. Congratulations, Kristen. Your certificate? Thank you very much. Can Mark Gillespie please also come to the podium? Mark, how are you? Not only is Mark a 2014 National Merit semifinalist, he is also maintaining a 4.0 average at Westfield High School. In addition, he has earned perfect SAT scores in reading, chemistry, writing, and U.S. history. Very well done, Mark. We give you your certificate. Congratulations. I want to thank you both for coming this evening and providing us with the opportunity to recognize your outstanding achievements. Also to be congratulated as National Merit semifinalists are those students who couldn't attend tonight in person. And they are Alexander Beals, Rachel Holtzman, Alex Mazawer, Jill Rosenfeld, and Lily Wang. We will be sure to send your Board of Education certificates over to the high school so they can be delivered to you. And congratulations, everyone. What job well done. Thank you very much. Congratulations. All right, with that, let's go to Brendan. Anything down your end?
Yeah, I have 4 announcements from athletics. Starting with gymnastics. On October 18th, the Westfield High School gymnastics team captured the 8th consecutive Union County title, broke their own record, and scored the highest team score in the state this season. Jenna Rizkala broke individual meet records as well. On to volleyball. The Westfield High School volleyball team raised $28,000 in this year's annual Pink Out. The team received a letter of thanks from the Komen organization that read in part, "All of us here at Komen are humbled and touched by the hard work, the dedication, the attention to details, and the true passion that goes out to the Pink Out event." $28,000. Amazing. Simply amazing. With the average cost of a mammogram being $125, this year that means that 264 women who could not afford a mammogram will be able to have one. Many of these women could not get a mammogram without your help. You are saving lives. On to boys soccer. Congratulations to the Westfield High School boys soccer team for winning the quarterfinals in the state competition. Swimming. In mid-October, the National Interscholastic Swimming Coaches Association of America released the following dual national meet team rankings. The Westfield High School boys swim team was ranked 13th, and the Westfield High School girls swim team was ranked 9th. Congratulations on these impressive national rankings. That's it.
Thank you. Great.
I have a fine arts announcement. Congratulations to the following Westfield High School students who were selected to exclusive all-state musical groups. Alex DeFabio, a senior percussionist, performed with the All-State Orchestra in Atlantic City during the Teachers Convention. The students in the All-State Mixed Chorus, Julian Moan, a junior, and Kim Roth, a senior, were invited to perform at the New Jersey Teachers Convention and the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. The students in the All-State Women's Chorus, Kristen Haig, who just left us, Catherine Coe, and Melanie Snyder, will perform at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in February. These students were selected from 4 choir programs from around the state of New Jersey. Students audition for the choir and are selected from over 1,000 students that audition.
Thank you.
And the fall dramas are coming up. The fall drama Metamorphosis will be performed in the high school auditorium this Thursday at 4 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. The box office will be open at 2:45 on Thursday and 6:30 on Friday and Saturday, and the house will open 45 minutes prior to curtain. For those unfamiliar with the play, it is a retelling of various myths of Ovid's Metamorphosis. The play focuses on the themes of love and transformation, and yes, they have built a swimming pool in the auditorium, so you have to all go and see that. The production will feature more than 100 Westfield High School student actors and technicians. Dan Devlin, director, and the cast and crew look forward to sharing this beautiful, challenging, and magical story with the community. And Edison Intermediate School will present its fall drama, The Pink Panther Strikes Again, on Thursday, November 21st at 4 p.m. and Friday and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. And earlier this month, in the first weekend in November, Roosevelt Intermediate School presented Les Miserables in straight play form for the community. The play showcased 30 cast members and 20 crew members. Kimberly Johnny, director, said that the students were outstanding in bringing this classic to life. And I did attend, and it was really wonderful.
Thank you. Lucy.
Okay, I have 2. One's language arts. Congratulations to Westfield High School junior Andrew Zale for earning a notable mention for the poem he submitted in the Mahatma Gandhi Art and Writing Contest, which was held at Princeton University. We also want to extend our congratulations to one of our teachers for her writing talent. Rosemary DiBattista, English and journalism teacher at Westfield High School, has written a novel available by Penguin Publishing entitled Murder and Marinara, an Italian kitchen I'm stuttering because that's not how I say it in Italian. Marinara, an Italian kitchen mystery in book 1, and written under her pen name, Rosie Geneva. Mrs. DeBattista has been a writer her whole life, but it wasn't until 8 years ago that she became serious about trying to publish. In that 8 years, she wrote and revised 3 books while teaching English and advising the newspaper at Westfield High School. She told us, "I love being able to demonstrate to my students that with enough patience, perseverance, and hard work, anything is possible." Westfield High School's weekly student-run newspaper, High Eye, has been named a finalist in the 2013 National Scholastic Press Association's Pacemaker Competition. It is the only student newspaper in New Jersey and one of 6 in the entire country considered a finalist for school newspapers consisting of 8 pages or less. Rosemary DiBattista and Nicole Scimone are the advisors. I have one more announcement in technology. Westfield High School seniors Sarah Davidson and Samantha Gruskin and teachers Jacqueline Spring and Caitlin McDonald were among panelists at a workshop held at the New Jersey School Boards Convention on October 24th. They discussed how technology can transform teaching and learning and referred to the use of iPads in the American Studies class as an example. Ms. McDonald stated, "With technology, students are more empowered and active learners." Principal Peter Renwick added, Ivo Popoff, the Chief Innovation Officer for the New Jersey Department of Education, invited Westfield High School to present at the convention because of the innovative use of technology Mr. Popoff saw when he visited the American Studies classroom last year. He was extremely impressed with the collaborative approach that Jackie and Caitlin took to improve instruction using the 21st century skills and electronic tools. And just on a side note, I just want to say that Ms. Sullivan and Ms. Lights and Ms. Dr. Dolan and myself attended the New Jersey School Boards Convention, and we personally were at this. And the infectionism from the students and the teachers presenting this, they kept everybody there. It was supposed to be a half hour or an hour presentation, and it was the last workshop of the 3 days. And they were able to keep this audience there with their enthusiasm for, I think, for an extra 45 minutes or an hour. And it was amazing considering it was the last workshop of the 3 days, and their whole attitude exemplified what they were learning in technology, and it was just wonderful and very honoring to see.
It was, I
So-
agree. And one of the members of the audience is actually involved in a statewide organization dealing with technology, and so he's reached out to see if the same group can present at another conference in New Jersey. So,
Wow, wow.
That's great.
it was great to be there. and
They
experience
were,
it.
they
Very
were all
proud.
great, yep.
Thank you. Mitch?
Okay, this is a great announcement. This is about Girls Learn International. Forming one of the largest contingencies in attendance at the United Nations in New York City, a total of 46 of our students and their advisors from Roosevelt and Edison and Westfield High School chapters of Girls Learn International attended the International Day of the Girl Speak Out in October. The theme of this year's summit was Innovating for Girls' Education. Several girls from around the world reported on their activism and how they're making a difference in the lives of girls in their country. The panelists were then addressed by UN representatives and delegates from various government missions who acted as respondents. Some of the respondents included the Executive Director of UN Women, the Deputy Executive Director of UNICEF, the First Lady of Peru, and the Ambassador of Turkey. Westfield students were moved by the stories told by the young panelists and inspired by their innovative projects. Lindsay Charlo, a Westfield 8th grader, stated to see girls our age going through such struggles and then coming back with a plan to change the situation for girls around the world was empowering. 8th grader Giovanna Sternberg noted, "When I looked around during Speak Out, I noticed that the Westfield chapters of GLI made up a good portion of the audience. This made me aware of the big impact that young people from our own town can have on the lives of others throughout the world through activism." Accompanying the Westfield students to the UN were Westfield Girls Learn International advisors Karen Lust and Dominic Cecchio from Roosevelt, Tamara Yellen and Cecilia Valdez at Edison, and Westfield High School parent Judy Augustino, a chaperone for the event.
Sandra McCarthy, the high school advisor, was unable to attend the Speak Out. Girls Learn International first took root in Westfield in 2003 by its founder, former Board of Ed member Lisa Alter. Today, through weekly or bi-weekly after-school meetings, Westfield students learn about human rights and gender issues through engaging activities from a curriculum provided by the organization. Our students also support education initiatives, communicate and exchange cultural projects with their partner school in Afghanistan, where girls still lag behind boys in access to education. So this is wonderful, and it's really, really terrific that our girls are doing this. It's really a great thing.
One quick thing. I said I had coffee tonight, which I never do, and I'm going to speak too much. my daughter went to that, and she absolutely loved it, and she learned a lot from that experience. So I just wanted to add to that. So, sorry, no more coffee.
This is an announcement about the Westfield High School Marching Band. The Westfield High School Marching Band capped their 2013 show season by winning second place in the U.S. Band's Mid-Atlantic States competition in Annapolis, Maryland. This took place on November 3rd. Representing New Jersey, the Blue Devils performed at the U.S. Navy Marine Memorial Stadium in competition with 5 other bands in their group from Maryland and Virginia. The Westfield Band was also awarded Best Visual, Best Guard, and Best Percussion. The band placed first in their group and second overall in the A class at their last Gold Star show of the season in East Brunswick High School on October 26th. The band was also recognized for Best Music, Best Visual, Best Effect, Best Color Guard, and Best Percussion at this event. In addition, the Marching Blue Devils also finished in the top 5 at the recent New Jersey State Championships at Rutgers University, where they competed against 16 other bands in their division. We really need to congratulate our band members and band director, Mr. Chris Vitale, on an outstanding season. So congratulations to all of our marching band participants, their leadership, and thank you for bringing such high-level entertainment to us and doing so well at your competitions.
Thank you.
This is from the elementary schools. This year, Jefferson and Washington schools are participating in a program called Healthy You, sponsored by the Westfield Y. The program promotes healthy eating habits and how to stay fit in fun ways. School personnel, such as the physical education teachers, school nurses, and cafeteria supervisors, were trained in August, and the program was launched this October. As a Learning Through Gardening member school, Tamaulipas has been afforded the opportunity to pilot a partnership with teachers and students in South America who are also gardening in their schools. This exchange of student gardening experiences is being conducted as part of the 5th grade World Language Program at Tamaulipas, providing our students with practice in speaking Spanish with their Colombian counterparts while learning about the climate, natural resources, and culture of South America. The first exchange between our students and their Colombian counterparts took place recently as the students exchanged greetings with children on another continent. Principal Michael Cullen said it reminded him of our district's Classroom Without Walls initiatives. So it's very exciting.
Thank you. Okay. Since this is the first Board of Education meeting since the November 5th election, I just wanted to thank the residents of Westfield for your approval of the school bond referendum that will allow us to complete our school roof projects at a lower cost to taxpayers. With your approval, we are now able to accept $2.7 million in state aid for these projects, which directly reduces the amount of taxes that we need to raise to complete the projects. I also want to thank Brendan Galligan, Ginny Lights, and Mitch Slater for their continued service on the Westfield Board of Education. With their re-election on November 5th, we are fortunate to now have them serving the school system and all of our 6,200 students for another 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brendan, a song?
Start us off, Mitch.
Okay.
And finally, the next Board of Education meeting will be Tuesday, November 26th at 7:30 here at 302 Elm Street. With that, I'd like to recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, I'll move to the superintendent report.
And this evening, we have two different superintendent reports. For the first one, which is a report on the results of student testing from the last school year, I'm going to introduce our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum. That's Mr. Paul Pinero. Oh, that's right. New dates, right.
I see you've been practicing the sticky note process.
Yes.
Sorry.
These are my props.
Probably really be quiet.
I talked to my wife, I've been doing presentations like this for a long time, and so I said, I hope, I hope it comes off very well, I hope I pick the right numbers, I hope I engage, the board and the public, and my wife said, well, just show them those cluster reports, they'll be, enthralled. So here they are, but I will refer to them in a serious tone in a little bit. So, here we are. So, our annual testing results report. In fact, you see pencils up there in test taking. A couple of years that will be up here, that would be antiquated because they'll be taking the test on computers. But that's for another meeting. So the next slide will just show us what we'll be looking at tonight. So our first portion of the presentation will be an overview of state testing in general, some of the key terms, etc. Then we'll look at the results. We'll stop and have questions specific to state testing, and then we can continue with a few slides demonstrating AP, Advanced Placement, and SAT performance, and then we can wrap up with questions at the end of that. Okay, so what you see here is the listing of all of the state testing that each school, public school in New Jersey participates in every year. So grades 3, 4, 5, you have ELA. By the way, you'll see ELA this year instead of LAL. So what that means is instead of language arts literacy testing, it's now English language literacy. So we have ELA and math from grades 3 through 8 really. And science is included in 4th and 8th grade. And then we have our high school proficiency assessment at 11th grade. Here are some key terms real quickly. I know that many of you are very familiar with these, but it never hurts to go over them. So district factor groups are still being used comparatively. So the district factor group is the classification that associates academic performance with community characteristics, which can include, or which does include, affluence, parent education, income, median house, the value of homes, etc. And so we are in, Westfield is in, the district factor group I, along with districts of similar characteristics. And by the way, so those will be our peer districts that we'll use comparatively, because we still get that information for this type of testing report. And I'm very pleased and proud to report that Westfield students continue to perform at, or in most cases above, the level of their peers. And you'll see that tonight. A few more key terms. The possible score. The test is 50 questions. The New Jersey Ask, in particular, is 3 through 8. It's 50 questions, and that's scaled to a maximum score of 300. The scale score mean we'll be including those graphs, that data, in tonight's presentation. So that's the average of a student group's scale score. It could be the total population or any one of the categorized populations, subgroups. Partially proficient is a score that falls under the cutoff of 200. So 300 is maximum, 200 is the cutoff for partially proficient under it, and proficient is above it. If students score 250 or above, that's considered advanced proficient. So between 250 and 300 is advanced proficient. I've also included the term cluster on that slide. That's the specific skill set being tested on a given test, and that's in these. But when we talk about what we do with the data, I'll pull them out one more time. So here are the specific clusters, and it's worth noting here that with the Common Core state standards, those are the national standards for English language arts and mathematics being introduced, there have been some slight changes in the test for language arts. So in 2012, you see the clusters on the column all the way to the left. The writing for grades 3 through 5, clusters were expository task and speculative task writing. And then in 6 through 8, persuasive task, explanatory task, and then reading, working with text and analyzing text. So for the new English language arts clusters starting in 2013, so that was last spring's testing, grades 3 through 8, the writing clusters were categorized as persuasive writing, informative explanatory, and narrative. And for reading, literature and informational texts. And I'll have a few things to say about how we performed with those changes. We performed well, not despite the changes, but along with having changes take place in the testing and what the clusters represent. In math, it stayed the same. You have number and numerical operations, geometry and measurement, patterns and algebra, data analysis, probability and discrete math. The clusters are the same, but there were subtle changes to the Common Core standards. Okay, our next slide shows us the HESPA. The HESPA hasn't changed. Those are the existing clusters that have been in place for a few years. So writing, expository, persuasive, reading, interpreting text, and then analyzing and critiquing. And then math is very similar to the ones that I just read off for the New Jersey Ask. But there are a couple others in there, patterns and algebra, mathematical processes and problem solving. So those are the HESPA clusters. So how we use the data. We analyze the student results, and that gives us a chance to find ways to adjust our instruction, in some cases the curriculum when appropriate. We also use the cluster categories that I've shown twice and referenced to continually monitor curriculum alignment with standards. That's how we have that indicator that our new language arts curriculum that we rolled out seems to have done a good job of preparing our students for the new test. And we monitor the consistency of instruction with that. If there are schools among the district that supervisors might notice a slight difference in how we performed on fractions, for an example, that could be an indicator that we can take a close look in a particular school or grade, like that. And then also overall assessing programs as part of our ongoing curriculum review. Maybe it's the academic support program, and these clusters and the test results help us determine what areas we can take a close look at and help our students. Okay. Also, so there are a few caveats to keep in mind, a few things that we want to keep in mind while looking at the test results. The important aspect of having the I-district is that there's something to compare with. The reason that's important is that at any given grade level, the assessments may change from year to year. So if you're looking at, say, 4th grade each year, which we have that data, it's just you have to look at it all. So we have, in fact, 3rd grade over 10 years, 4th grade over a number of years. And we look at that, but remember the cohorts change. So the students are different from year to year. And so the assessment can change, the level of difficulty may change, the students change. So we have to keep all of that in mind. And also the scoring protocols can change. Until just recently, for the writing prompts, the writing responses in particular, it was required that 2 readers read each response for each student. And now the protocol has changed to 1 scorer, and certainly that could impact the inter-rater reliability. Some things to keep in mind. How we analyze the data with our staff. Well, Dr. Dolan and I review the test results with the principals and supervisors at building levels. Principals review the results with teachers. They'll do it in a faculty meeting, typically. The supervisors also follow up in their department and grade level meetings. Teachers analyze the results with the supervisors, and they'll look at those clusters. Individual student score reports, so now it comes all the way down to the individual student score reports, are reviewed and identified for support, especially those that may, we do clump a lot of our students at very high levels, and certainly the parents review their individual score reports, and so do we. But those students that might be struggling, those individual reports might demonstrate that it's very specific to that student. So, we drill it all the way down for how is the district doing, to how is the building doing, how are the grades doing, how is that child doing. So that's important that we drill it all the way down. Okay, here's a little bit about our approach to the data analysis. I think I just explained it. So we start at the district level, and so I'll add that. So you sort of heard how we approach the data analysis, but now I'll add that if we're looking at the data over time in 4th grade, as I said, there are some problems with that. But if you do it comparatively, so that test did change dramatically one year, and across the state, you heard, well, we all picked up our phones. Those people who are the first line of receiving test results, we all called each other up at the curriculum level and said, "Oh my God, did you have a problem in 4th grade?" And it was like, yes. So there was actually a recent year where 4th grade across the board had dipped in a subject area. So if we hadn't had our peers to compare that to, it would have looked like here's Westfield, 4th grade, exceedingly well, and all of a sudden they come way down, and we have nothing to compare it to. So when you do that over time, you see if, in fact, our grade levels are sort of following the same trajectory, hopefully trajectory up, to our peers. So that is a really important thing to keep in mind. So we look at it from all those different angles. Okay, so let's begin our review. So this year, the way it is organized, I'll overview the first slide, is you see grades 3 through 8 and then WHS, Westfield High School, along the bottom. And what we're showing you here is the blue is Blue Devils, Westfield. The green are the peers, so that's our DFGI peers, our district factor group peers. Those are districts very similar to Westfield's. And then there are the state results. So traditionally for those of us who experience this presentation each year, you've noticed that Westfield's bar will typically be at or above the DFG peers, and certainly well above the state, and our peers are well above the state typically as well. And so right off here in the first slide, our English language arts total passing for grades 3 on up to 8, and then Westfield High School are there. So this is the total passing from up to 100%, and that's English language arts. Okay, and once we get through the state testing, we can stop and go back and certainly answer any questions. So we'd also like to include the advanced proficient results. This is going to be a tighter scale because advanced proficient is a chunk of the total passing. So the prior slide was total passing, that included proficient and then advanced proficient. This is just advanced proficient, which is a really good indicator of how we're functioning, how our students at the top are functioning at the top of performance. So you see also grades 3 through the high school. Grades 6 and 7, that's a couple points. Remember the scale is tight. But so we're looking closely at those few points differential because it really, it seldom happens that the blue is lower than in this case, green. So it looks like grade 6, we might have 7 or 8 versus 9, something like that. So we'll take a close look, but those are advanced proficient, and historically we do very well. So our next slide will show us the scale score mean. Now this year we're introducing the scale score because sometimes the passing percentage doesn't always tell us the whole story. So in most cases when you're dealing with larger populations, the passing percentage is strong enough to give us a good sense of what's going on. But to look at both is probably a better practice. So I've included them this year, and we've spent some time looking at scale scores. So the scale score, again, as I said, goes up to a maximum of 300. And what you see there is, again, the district is blue, the I districts are green, and the state is reddish brown, I guess. And there's our performance. Okay. And that does correspond with the advanced proficient slide that, and the total passing that preceded it. So that's language arts. Okay. So moving on to math, you see similarly that the district continues to do very well. Total passing in mathematics across the board, grades 3 through the high school. I'm singing the same song again, but we perform really well compared to our district peers and the state. Okay, and here's a look at advanced proficient. And again, there's a nice gap, especially here in the math advanced proficient from grades 3 through 8, and then at the high school as well on the HESPA. And then there's the scale score averages. And love to see them all bunched up there at the 250, which is advanced proficient, which is really nice. And then, okay, so those were the math and language arts. We'll take a quick look at science. Science assesses grades 4 and 8 life science, physical science, earth science knowledge, and application. And so for this, we only have the 2 grades taking the science. So blue is district, DFG, and then state. That's total passing. And then the next one is advanced proficient. Give you a point or two difference there for the DFG, so we look at that. And then there's the scale score and its average. All right, so I'd like to just take us through some of the highlights from these, and then we'll stop for a second for questions with regard to the state mandated state tests before going on to high school AP and SAT. So, as you've probably heard me say a few times, Westfield Public School District consistently performs at or above its district factor group, with very few exceptions. I think 2 came up, so that's really great, and it's consistent and it's typical over time. At the district level, all cluster skill areas are at or above the DFG mean. So, here we go. Last time, I swear. So each of these little packets, green stickies, represents a school, one of our schools, and then on there we highlight areas that are at or above the district factor group mean. So what it shows is when we go through each skill set, so you saw them earlier, there's a skill set for each test, language, arts, and math. As we go through every single individual skill set, at the district level, Westfield performs above its peers. And that's every single individual skill set at the district level. So this is really helpful. And what will happen is the principal supervisors will look through these. If there's a case where in a particular school or grade level, it's not at the district mean, then we take a really close look at that. So those are highlights that we perform that well all the way down to that level. And then really excited about grades 3 through 5, the English language assessment scores. We maintain the same margin above the I district as has been typical in prior years. Remember, we have like 6 to 10 years data, and we're always at that level. In a couple of instances, there's actually a gap where we've expanded the gap a little bit between our I district peers in 2013, and this is in a year, and it's worth pointing out that we did transition into an entirely new language arts curriculum, K through 5, and roll out a brand new approach to teaching balanced literacy. And all praise out to the teachers who were eager to get the training, concerned that they were getting it right in their classrooms, speaking about it among each other, with their principals, with the language arts supervisor. And even this summer, so this is the summer after the implementation, we had, well, you remember you approved about 15 people to spend a week and at the Teachers College at Columbia University to continue their quest to be experts in Readers and Writers Workshop. So it was a great launch year for us, and we're still doing extensive training among all of our staff for consistency, and that's in each of our schools. So really excited about, wouldn't want to come up here and say, well, there's that learning curve setback. And honestly, that has to be in the back of your mind a little bit when you make such a significant change. And so really happy that I didn't have to come here to say that, and very happy that I could say, in fact, it looked like we exceeded my expectations and the averages of our peers. So that's really great. Grades 3 through 5 and 11 also demonstrated that the new Common Core state standards for the ELA test were implemented well, because we, again, performed very well relative to our peers in all language arts clusters. So that's great. So the next slide shows us some highlights for math. So at all grade levels, 3, 8, and 11, Westfield students achieved at or above its I-district peers. At the elementary level, comparative analysis showed strong performance working with fractions. Now, it showed up a little bit at the district level, but I will say that it was 2 or 3 schools that was a significant jump between its peers. So what we're going to do is isolate those schools, find out exactly what they did with fractions, and we're going to share the wealth, because it was really great to see that. So we don't just look at where maybe someone stumbles, a school stumbles, a grade stumbles, and try to fix it. We also see where something goes well, and then we try to apply that. It's actually a direct quote from CUSEC, I believe. So you're supposed to examine what goes well as what doesn't. At our intermediate schools, students perform very well across the board and in math. And then at the high school scores above the I-district peers in passing and scale scores. Okay, so here are some areas for close review. And I mentioned fractions as being a strong point. There's some bit of measurement and data that we should look at for 3rd grade. There seemed to be, a little bit of a difference between the gap that we had with our I-district peers versus our 3rd grade I-district peers. So measurement and data, and then 4th grade geometry. Very subtle. I mean, but you want to find some areas to improve, certainly. And so those are 2 we can look at closely. And of course, it's very important to continue to look at each individual student and how they perform on their clusters. And also our subgroups. We look at the performance among our subgroups. Those are the categories of students within the total population. And so how do we support the needs of our students with all this data? Well, we continue supporting the elementary teachers, as I referenced just a few minutes ago, with the professional development that has fueled our transition to the Common Core and to a consistent balanced literacy approach. We're currently reviewing the Achieve program framework. The Achieve program is an academic support program for students who would need additional support, a form of intervention. And so we're reviewing that program and seeing how we can enhance that and help our students even more. We're going to continue to provide ongoing support for teachers who are using data for their student growth objectives. So this year is the year of the SGOs, where teachers are measuring students in the beginning of the year as to where they are when they come into the classrooms, and then marking their growth along the course of the year. So we're providing support for them to work with the data to mark that, and really to help them adjust to that approach and to using those data. Okay, so now we can look specifically at the high school for SAT and AP results. And I think we saw a little bit of that earlier with our 2 students. And I have a slide that will reference them, not specifically. So what we see in the SAT averages, the mean comparisons, are on the board there for critical reading, math, and writing. And so Westfield, now, we don't have I-district comparative data for this. It can be pulled out. I can go and get it eventually, but it's not all reported together. The College Board reports it this way. So I'll cobble it together, and at some point I can share it with you all as far as how the I-district breaks down. But this is what the College Board provides. And so for 2013, Westfield in critical reading was 567. The state's average was 499, and the nation's average was 496. So math, 597 in Westfield, 522 at the state level, and 514 at the national level. In writing, 578 for Westfield, 500 for the state, and 488 for the nation. Okay, now here are those SAT perfect scores we were very, very proud of. we list reading and writing, if it's up in there, right, 15 students for writing, 7 for reading. But we also include the other content areas, subject areas where our students took SATs and were perfect. That's really, it's very impressive. And we saw a little bit of that with our guests earlier today, so good for them, good for us, and that's just great to see. I mean, perfect. Perfect. It's really special. So advanced placement 4-year summary. So this data includes 2013 results. Recent online articles have been referencing the 2012, but 2013 did just come out not too long ago, so I've included that as well. In the last 4 years, we've had 17 AP courses, subjects, tests taken. So that means, so we have the courses, but not, sometimes students will take the AP test without having taken a course that we offer. So that's why you would see 17 courses offered in 2013, but 24 subject tests taken. That's what that means, that over and above the 17 courses offered, there were other subject tests taken. You see the third, well really the fourth column over, percent Westfield scores 3 and above. The advanced placement scoring metric rubric is 1 through 5, 5 being the highest. 3 is that middle point that is considered well done, so 3 and above is really the metric that College Board and institutions across the country consider a good score and above. So that's sort of the benchmark for that, 3. So 3 and above, we're very consistent in that regard. 2010, 90.6, and 2013, 91.6, varying just a little bit throughout. And then you see the percent state scores ranging from 73.9 in 2010 up to 74.6 in 2013. And global scores, it's not national, it's global. And so the averages for the world are there as well. Westfield kicks the world's butt. That's great. So you can edit, right? So, but it's very exciting. So one thing that one of us noticed, which was pretty great, is think about, especially when you're dealing with large numbers of students, with consistent data, because the AP tests are really vetted for consistency and rigor. So first of all, they're tight to begin with, from 2010 to 2013. But the little drop from 212 to 213, I think it was Barbara Ball who noticed this. So that little drop for Westfield was 0.4 from 92 to 91.6, 2012 to 2013. The state also dropped. Theirs was 0.5, and then the world dropped, and that was, so it was 3, 4, 5. So that was 5. The state was 0.4, and Westfield was 0.3. But I only bring that up not to say that Westfield and the world are slacking, because it's under a point, right? In fact, it's under a half a point. But just how tight the calibration for something like an advanced placement testing series is when you see that kind of consistency, across the different comparative metrics as well as across the years. So that's pretty cool, and I thought I'd point that out. And advanced placement, this is just another way of looking at it over the years, recent years. So there's the average, 3 and above, advanced, right. And that's just in a chart form that comes directly from College Board. And there you go. Now, so we're going to take a moment for questions. I did promise we'd stop in between, but I got excited because we were doing so well, and I didn't. But so. Questions? Yes.
So obviously we're doing a great job in analyzing the data from, as you said, from superintendent down through the student. I mean, excellent job, and obviously these are great, is great information. So as a parent, I know that over the years it's always kind of a confusing thing. You get the HESPA results, you get any of these results, and you have all these questions. A lot of which you answered tonight, which were great. I'm wondering what we can do, I'm sure you give this a lot of thought, what we can do to kind of educate the parents a little bit more. I know everything's changing next year, so it's in many ways but how do we educate the parents so they're up to speed? Or what would your recommendation be really for a parent when they get that information in the mail, in August or whenever it comes in, so they really understand what that means?
A couple things. It's an excellent point. I thought of it as we talked about the drilling down and how the individual score reports, also known as ISRP, individual score performance. All the parents get those. And this year we did include some very small, a simple table with regard to comparative data. But it got us thinking about what might be helpful for parents aside from just interpreting it. I think your point, Mitch, is we don't want to just know the comparative interpretation of it, but what does it mean?
What does it mean for their child?
Right, and breaking it down. So those reports do break it down, but we can give some thought to parents who might be interested in having access to this kind of discussion or overview material. Maybe we'll enlist people in the district again to do another video that describes it, goes through it.
I think that would be,
So-
the video would be great. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to overthink it, overanalyze it, but I just think that it's critical and, and again, we've all, this table pretty much sat in that chair and understand what that's like.
I think it's critical, it's important for everybody, obviously. For those students who may be struggling on an individual level, not necessarily having to do with curriculum and instruction so much as maybe individual skill sets. I know that the teachers will review those kinds of issues with the parents, and at times guidance counselors can be involved in that. But we can take a close look as to something maybe more formal or more comprehensive.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Looking at the AP results, I guess this year there were 7 tests that we didn't have classes for. 24 out of 17.
Right.
How did the students do that didn't take the
Then I
course
didn't
that went along
understand the
with it?
question. So if
If they didn't take our course and
Okay.
they took the test, how are those students doing?
so you're saying isolate the students' scores from tests that didn't have a course.
Right.
That's really cool.
More stickers.
We'll take a look.
Okay.
That has come up at SIP to an extent. Yeah.
Just a comment in defense of the 6th and 7th grade language arts scores that in the advanced proficient that you said were slightly below. The state's forever changing the language arts, what's required, if it's a speculative prompt, if it's an explanatory prompt, or if it's, text to self, text to world, where the math has been pretty consistent and they can't seem to make up their mind. So once you get their students learning to write a certain way that the state wants to show you, the state wants to see, they switch it up again. So I think a lot of that has to do with the 6th and 7th grade as
Yeah.
well.
I appreciate that clarification. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not sure, but that's just we're seeing that the numbers in LAL everywhere, even in district I groups comparatively, haven't been doing well in those grades either.
Right. Well, Dr. Dolan will often say it's a moving target. And it's a testament to what the families, the community, the teachers, and the educators in Westfield do, that moving target doesn't seem to dramatically impact us from year to year. But I get involved with data in all kinds of places and in my prior worlds, and it can often be more sporadic. Example would be, all of a sudden, 5th grade bumps up relative to its peers, and then 6th and 7th come down. So I've had that experience, and what you're saying is consistent with that kind of experience. It does speak, it does speak a lot to something that so consistently we're adjusting to the many changes to the test. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. And even there, it was like a point or.
Right, so I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's not to anything
Right.
that's happening here, it's just,
And to follow up on Mitch's point, as a parent, when you get the scores and you look at what your child did the previous year and what your child has done the current year, and a child may go up or down considerably, but what the state doesn't tell you is that those tests from year to year are not correlated. So
Exactly.
although they're scored using the same metrics, like 200 is your proficient, but 200 on the 5th grade is not the same as necessarily a 200 on the 6th grade. So when, as parents, it's just our nature to see an incline or a decrease and think, oh, they're doing better or they're doing worse, and you can't really do that with these data. Hopefully Clark will change that, right?
I mean, they say that would be the case, yes.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I mean, that was even covered in one of my classes that I'm taking for the data analysis, that, poor parents get this, oh my gosh, our student has dropped. We have to change, lifestyle. And in fact, it could be more of a reflection of the rigor of a course or a few changes in questions. So that's another important clarification we can make for parents on a wide scale.
Thank you, Paul, for the presentation. What's our plan for rollout with parents at schools and individually?
You mean with regard to the results?
What kind of communication are you planning?
Well, the individual score reports have gone home, and beyond that, I guess I know that specifically, it may have happened widespread. At a parents' night, one of the principals went over the results that they had handy. I'm not sure if that happens at every building at that level, at that wide scale. Certainly, we post it for the community on our website, and teachers will reach out specifically for specific students to help them with theirs. So those are some of the things we do.
I guess my hope is that every school would have that opportunity to take a PTO meeting or a parent night. This is such a important aspect of children's, a milestone of every year.
Right, exactly. And parents are interested in it and do have questions, so it generally is done at PTO
hopefully
meetings, so it's at the school level, yeah.
So I'm hoping that it's encouraged, that would be an expectation for school leaderships to do that.
And it is up on the website?
Tomorrow?
That would be great, just to the extent we're at PTO meetings and mention it, we can refer people to the website.
And there's just so much that we put into these reports, but we do have other data that we've collected over time that we do at the building levels. It would just be overwhelming to try to deal with it out of any context.
Right.
But it's really great what we've been able to compile, and principals are really into it. And there is more and more data available in real time, right from New Jersey Smart, that principals get involved with as well, and supervisors. So, but we'll post that. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we do have a second report this evening, and that is on New Jersey CUSAC is what it will be called during most of the presentation. But just to explain, New Jersey CUSAC is the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, which is why I say New Jersey CUSAC. And that is the name for New Jersey's system of monitoring public schools. That New Jersey CUSAC has been in effect since, I believe it was 2007, and every 3 years, public school districts are monitored. So this is the third time recently that we've gone through this process. Every 3 years, we've been CUSAC'd, as the other districts call it. So just to go over a little bit of an explanation, we were notified at the end of last year that we would have the state coming in to monitor us, so starting in the summer. Dana Sullivan, Paul Pinero, Mike Weissman, Barbara Ball, and I started the work of collecting all of the documents that the state requires and making sure things are in place that are in this year's version of the state monitoring. Having prepared all of that, the next step is the state requires us to have a district committee, and they even tell us who should be represented on the district committee. So, for example, Roseanne Kerstead served as the board's representative on the district committee for CUSAC. We also had a principal. We had Audrey Zavitz, the principal of Lincoln. We had a supervisor. It's David Greer, who is the supervisor of languages. We had 2 teachers as required, Dominic Tessio and Doug Kaler. And in addition, we had the people I mentioned before who worked to put the documents together. Now, what that committee is charged with is, for all of the different requirements of CUSAC, which come to just about 50 pages, not quite, but almost 50 pages, for all of that that's required, this committee reviews all of the requirements, asks questions, makes suggestions, asks where there's evidence of this in the district, and spends a great deal of time going over items that are required by the state. And then we come to consensus with whether or not we have met the state's requirements in that area. Our results of that review by the committee are presented to the board tonight for board approval. Once that is approved, then the CUSAC documents are submitted to the county office. Has to be submitted by November 15th. The county office then will come out in November to look at our facilities and make sure that we are in compliance with all required code. They will be coming out to visit this building to check a lot of documentation. That is scheduled for April, and in May they will be visiting our buildings to visit classrooms and to make sure we are in compliance there. The plan is then that is submitted to the commissioner, and then the commissioner makes the final determination as to whether we are in compliance with this year's version of CUSAC. So just an overview of what is required in CUSAC. And you'll be glad to know I will not go over all 50 pages, but this is just a summary. So there are 5 major areas. They include instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operation, and personnel. And under instruction, actually, everything that Paul went over tonight are requirements under CUSAC. How are our students doing? And you just heard both how our percentage proficient, our percent advanced proficient, our scale scores, all of that's included. What are our high school graduation rates? How do we analyze data? How do we make sure that we're looking to find out where our strengths are and weaknesses and how we can help and support students? Is our curriculum in place with the correct standards? And how is our student attendance? Under fiscal management, they look at areas such as budget planning. How does the board go about planning the budget for the following year? Do we have the correct financial and budgetary controls? Our annual audits, first of all, are they taking place? Second of all, are we meeting all the requirements of the annual audits? What is our oversight of grants and capital funds? And our facilities, all of the public school facilities, are they up to required code? Governance. Governance has to do mainly with the actions of the board. They look at board policies, procedures, and bylaws. They look at standard school board practices, make sure that the board is in compliance with ethics, that they have set budget priorities, that the board members participate in the required training, and that the board members complete the annual evaluative process for the superintendent. For operations, there is an ever-growing list of required training for staff. There is a submission of required data to the state. We have a regular student database and staff database that has to be regularly uploaded with a variety of information to the state. Are we following all the requirements for student conduct, for school safety, and for security? And are we in compliance with the memorandum of agreement with law enforcement? The most recent version of which is on tonight's agenda, actually. Underneath operations management, they look at student health, student support services, our equity plan, and also the oversight of required services for non-public schools within our jurisdiction. And the final category under personnel, they look, are all of our certificated employees, do they have the exactly correct certification that is required in licensing? Our personnel policies that are mandated, are they in place? Are we complying with the evaluation of staff? And in this particular year, the brand new requirements under the state for evaluation of staff, and also for professional development. Are we providing professional development that supports student achievement? So those are the main categories, and under that, all of that data for the requirements were reviewed. For anyone who wants to look at all of the details, it is available on the website. And as you can see, if you go into the tab on the main page of the Westfield Public School webpage, if you go to district information and do the drop-down box, the very bottom one mentions NJ CUSAC, and it has the full form that has been completed by the district committee. So you can view all of the details there. Once that has been approved by the board, that same information will be uploaded and sent to the state, and that self-assessment that we will then have completed is what they will use to monitor us. So just to show you the results of the reviewed by the district committee, in the area of instruction and programs, out of a possible 100 points, we received a 91% there. In the fiscal area, 98%, and in governance, operations, and personnel, 100%. Generally speaking, the state is looking in most of those categories for at least a score of 80%. So we are above that in all of the categories there. I will say every 3 years when we do prepare this, it's like it is in many different areas of business. When you are being monitored, it is a great deal of work to get all of that together. Everyone worked hard. We take it seriously because how we present the information of the work this district does is important, and we want to make sure that we show how well and how hard we work here in Westfield. So for everyone who did work on preparing for CUSAC and will continue to, I really do appreciate it, and I thank them for their efforts. Particularly want to help the members of the district committee who were very patient as we work through all of the details of working through CUSAC.
Having worked on a CUSAC committee in the past, I also want to thank those who participated. It's a daunting task, but it's even more daunting to collect all the data and the information and have it presentation ready for the group to look at. So I thank those, especially those administrators who gathered all of the paper and data and had it available for presentation. Dr. Dolan, can you tell us under what circumstances we were able to lose points under instruction and program?
You know,
Please, and also under fiscal management?
You know I would know about each and every one of those points.
I do.
I'm very competitive. So under instruction and program, the first one has to do with high school graduation rate. Now that should be a little surprising because high school graduation rate in Westfield is 98%. But for some reason this year the state has a requirement where the vast majority of our students graduate based on their results of the HESPA. But for some students who are special education students, there are specific provisions for them because the HESPA is not an appropriate assessment for them. The way the state asked the question in the CUSAC document is, what % of your students are graduated from high school based on the HESPA? So for any of those special education students who received their graduation diploma through a different method, through the method specified by law, they didn't count. So our % passing through HESPA was 89.4%, and you needed 90 to get 2 points more.
Oh.
So those were 2 points.
Okay.
In addition to that, Mr. Pinero went through all of our results of the state assessments, but the state wasn't looking at what % you did and how you ranked in the state for how you did on the test. In 2012, they came up with a new measurement which is called annual progress targets. And to develop it, they took whatever your score was in 2011, whether the district was performing at 90% or 60% or 40%, it didn't matter. Wherever you were, they made that your target. And then they started to increase it year by year till you would get to 100. So we were already way up here, and every year we're supposed to get better, so we lost 2 points because we weren't meeting progress to get to 100%. If we hadn't done well in 2011, we would be fine. But we lost a series of 2 points there. So those are basically where the points are for instruction and programs. For fiscal, do you want to talk about the 2 points in fiscal?
Sure.
Yes.
It's also the way they phrased the question. We're allowed to make budget transfers, and we do. You guys get reports every month, and that's any school district does because you're building a budget. So as you're going through the year, you're actually transferring funds to different accounts to make, as things change in the district. The question, and we do that, there are parameters set by the state which we can't exceed on the amount of transfers that we can make, and we never do exceed those. But the question, as they asked it, was, does the district only make transfers for new programs or health and safety issues? So the only answer could be no, but it doesn't really make sense unless we're interpreting it too strictly or being too rigid in our interpretation, but then when the state comes in, we'll know that. But I couldn't answer yes to that question because it's not correct.
Do you know if other districts are interpreting them the same way? It's similarly with your math issue. I mean, that's crazy that you would calculate a statistic that way. Do you know if other districts are doing the same thing?
I do know this year other districts are doing it that way, yes. Yeah. Yes, but I don't know in the fiscal area, honestly.
No, that Montclair did. when I answered the question. But no, I don't know what other districts other than that are doing.
So again, we can provide progress as we have the state visit us, but I think all in all it shows we're in good shape here. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
All right. Then I would ask the board to consider to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on October 1, 2013, October 15, 2013, and the private minutes of October 1, 2013, and October 15, 2013. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Any opposed? All right. Go to personnel. Mark is out sick this evening. Roseanne, you want to take that?
I'd like to ask the board to approve personnel items number 1 through 34 with an addendum on item number 29. There are 2 typos. Robert Brent Geyer and Christina Tulios should be paid $140 for their professional development instruction, not $104 as listed. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mitch. Comments or questions?
All right. Okay.
Rich Matessa?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Gallagher?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oldey?
Yes, I abstain from number 2 and 7.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to facilities. I don't have a report other than, Dana, do you want to just give us a quick roof update?
Sure. The, both Washington and Roosevelt are substantially complete except for some minor punch list items and some final inspections and warranties. And the high school is, as I mentioned last time, the second layer of the cap sheet is 100% complete. We are waiting on metal to be delivered, the first shipment of metal, which should come next week. The second shipment is due early December, and we're hoping to have the metal installed by the end of December. They will be working during the school day, but they're doing most of their work or all of their work that is disruptive at night. And any complaints that we have, we will address immediately, but it shouldn't be an issue.
And the metal orders are placed now because they had to complete the roof first, right? Before
Right, they had to
place the roof.
complete the roof in order to do the measurements to install the metal. So
Right.
they measured the first half, and that will be delivered next week, and then the second half when they were able to do that.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Ginny, long-range planning?
Unfortunately, long-range planning was not able to meet on October 28th. We think we can wait until December 16th for our next meeting.
All right. Thank you. Policies. Gretchen.
Yes.
Take a deep breath.
Take it one at a time. I would ask the board to consider policy item number 1 with respect to the 2014-15 school calendar. Can I have a second?
Second.
So the policy committee compared a couple of different calendars. Actually, this year it wasn't really much of an issue, the way the holidays fell. It made it relatively easy. And it was circulated to the board. Does anybody have any questions about the proposed 14-15 calendar?
That looked good to me.
Okay, then we could take a vote.
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Lucy Beegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
And I assume this will be up on the website relatively soon, because I know parents always want to look ahead in terms of.
Exactly. Parents, certainly this is something they're very interested in. I wonder whether we should maybe just go through in general
I
what the
think so.
calendar is.
Okay.
Either I can or you can, whatever your
I'll
pleasure.
defer to you. I have a feeling I'm going to be talking a lot very soon. so.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. In the proposed calendar, which will be up on the website tomorrow, the school year, the students will start the Wednesday after Labor Day. There are 2 holidays, the end of September, Thursday the 25th and Friday the 26th. School's also closed for Columbus Day, which is Monday the 13th of October. Our schedule for the first week of November, where all schools are closed on the first Thursday and Friday of November for the State Teachers Convention. And earlier that week, there are half days at the elementary level to allow for parent-teacher conferences. There is a half day before the Thanksgiving, and then we're off on Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving. For the winter holidays, the vacation starts on December 24th, and the students return back on January 5th. And that is because January 1st is a Thursday, so it would not quite make sense to come back on the 2nd, which is what we normally do. What did I say? The 5th. 5th. They come back on January 5th.
Right.
Because that's a Monday. We are closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday on Monday, January 19th. For the students, there is a 4-day weekend in February. They are off Friday the 13th and Monday the 16th.
Thank God.
On the 16th, on the 13th, we will be having a staff in-service, but the students will be out on that day. The spring break begins on Monday, March 30th, and that is for the entire week. We're closed for Memorial Day, which is May 25th, and school ends on a Monday, which is Monday, June 22nd. And the last 2 days of school are half-days of school.
And that's graduation.
And the graduation would be Monday, June 22nd, that's correct. Okay, but again, it will be on the website.
Okay, I would move on to item number 2. I'd ask the board to consider approving for first reading the policies listed under item 2. Can I have a second?
Second.
We did?
So it probably makes the most sense, I hope. The board has, over the course of the past 2 to 3 weeks, gotten these policies in their Friday packets. So I'm hopeful that most of the conversation that needed to be had can be had just because we have so many. But let's talk through it to the extent there hasn't. I will just briefly kind of identify the policy, where we're at, where we've been, and then we can have conversation that way rather than try and take it as a chunk. So policy 0151 is organization meeting. We actually looked at this policy as it actually in June of 2013, so recently the board approved it. But there has been a suggestion that we should abolish the position of treasurer of school monies, which is actually the next policy that we're going to discuss. And so we are bringing this policy back to the full board to eliminate any reference to the treasurer that's in the policy. Just kind of, I guess, looking ahead to our 0172, Dana has recommended that we abolish the duties, the policy 172 duties of the treasurer of school monies, because a lot of the work that was supposed to be done by the treasurer of school monies is done within the business office. It was a duplication of efforts, and she felt strongly that it just was a position that we didn't need anymore. And so based on that, the policy committee has also recommended to the full board that we abolish it. So that, hence the reason that we're looking at 151 again. Anybody have any comments? Jenny?
I do. In fairness, in the last, what was it, Dana, 3 years, 4 years, the state has put new legislation in place that allowed us to abolish this
Right.
position.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Nothing else on 151. The next policy is 172. Does anybody want any further clarification on that? Tonight, for first reading, we would be abolishing the policy altogether. 173, duties of the public school accountant. This policy is quite different from our old policy. I'm assuming, did y'all get our old ones?
No?
Okay. So let me give you a little bit of history. So the old public school accountant policy, well, it's not even old. Our current 173 is very kind of short in shrift. And so I think
Oh,
we
I'm
have.
sorry, we do have it.
Okay, and so, the Strauss Esme that typically is the service that releases proposed policies and that the districts often rely on to kind of draft their own policies, released a new 173. We looked at it, as we always do, and Dana took a look at it and thought that it was a more appropriate policy than our old 173. I came to the policy committee. We actually had no changes other than, I think we probably may have eliminated any reference to the treasurer, but maybe not. But that's the story behind this one. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Great. We're doing great.
Keep going.
That's great.
Keep going. You're doing great.
The calm before the storm.
1110, the organizational chart. So y'all have seen this one recently too. In August of last year, the full board updated this policy. We looked at it again for purposes of tonight because it did make reference to the treasurer's school monies, so we needed to remove that. And then in the course of looking at it, we also changed the name of the director of guidance. I believe this is one of the policies that we need to have in place also for CUSAC.
That is correct.
So I know from Rich and conversations that Roseanne and I has had with the policy committee that there's the structure of the policy of the chart is that there are some concerns that it might not be all encompassing, that it might not represent, there might be dotted lines, there might be dual reporting requirements. For purposes of tonight, the policy committee is kind of putting this on the back burner to look at again. But for CUSAC purposes, we thought it was sufficient and certainly represented the reporting trails in the district. And so for first reading, this is how we're proposing to keep it for the moment. Any questions or concerns? Great. 1240, superintendent evaluation. So this is a new law, and there were the old policy, old 12, I keep saying old, but it's actually the current 1240, had been on the policy committee's agenda for a number of meetings. And part of our delay was that we were concerned that the way that we conduct our evaluation was not consistent with the way that the policy, which had come to us from Strauss Esme, was written. But then the whole thing changed anyway. So Dr. Dolan and, I'm a little bit jealous, by the way, but Dr. Dolan and Barbara took a look at it based on changes to the current law. The committee talked about it. I think we made a couple of nit changes, which were marked up. And that's the status of this one. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this?
I have some comments because it doesn't, there are some things that are included in the policy that we as a board have not historically been doing but are now required for us to do, so I
So
just wanted to.
why don't you delineate those for us?
Okay, because
You want to
sure,
do it?
that'd be great.
So part of it is that we, and this is all now required by law, but, if you look on page 2 of the policy E, bullets 4 and 5, I believe, are new, something that we haven't done before. We're also now, we have a much more active role in terms of reviewing and revising the evaluation as a full board with Dr. Dolan rather than on our own. Like what we've typically done is we meet, we all kind of fill out the evaluation instrument, it gets correlated, it gets collated, we go back and forth, and then it gets presented to Dr. Dolan, but not often with the full board. And so my understanding is that the new policy would change how that's done.
And where is that stated?
Wait, I didn't.
That's page 1 of 3 of R 1240.
Where is it stated?
Paragraph B, annual summary conference. The Board of Education shall conduct an annual summary conference.
Wait a minute, I don't, start again? Page 2 of 2?
One of three.
One of 3 in the
In
regulations.
the regs.
1 of 3 in the
The
regs,
annual
yes.
summary conference.
Okay, yes,
Letter B, number 1.
yes.
The Board of Ed shall conduct an annual summary conference with the superintendent to develop and prepare an annual written performance report. It then goes through the various steps, and it's all essentially what we do now, but we don't do it with PEG. It's a separate process, and then we give her the evaluation at the end. In this new example, it's PEG's part of the process, then we go away and do the written report, and then deliver it.
I think
And the written report is not-
C1E is new as well, on page 2 or 3 of the regs.
C1D and D.
Right.
And then the
Is the July 1st date?
Yes,
a
that's
state
new
date?
too.
that's
That's
6
new as
months.
well.
State date.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for the written.
Well, it also appears back over here, subsequent adopt by July 1st. Is there something else that says something different?
No.
No.
But
All right.
but we could do the report. You know, we could.
There also is, Rich, actually, I missed this, pointed out earlier today on page 1 on the very first page of the policy, that it says that the evaluation of superintendents has to happen within 6 months of commencement of the term of office, so
Could you just point us to where that
it's
is?
the second paragraph.
Thank you.
This is training for new board members.
Right.
It's supposed to be conducted within 6 months.
Right, sorry, I wasn't very clear.
But we didn't really do that either. I mean, that didn't exist.
Right. So it's a lot. I mean, I think we're gonna have to pay close attention in order to,
So by June of
In
the
keeping
first
with
year,
this.
when they're sitting as of January, unless we appoint them at a different
Right.
time.
Right.
anything else new that we missed?
No, I think you hit them.
Good.
So you think that the summary conference comes first with the superintendent before there's a written performance report?
That's the way I read it.
Yes. Regulation B1 seems to indicate that.
Yes.
Right.
If it's a sequence.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just also wanted, we are supposed to also work with Dr. Dolan for the professional growth and development plan.
Right, which is a new requirement. There used to be a plan, but it was done, superintendents completed the plans with other superintendents, and it was done directly with the state association. So as soon as those guidelines are in, I'll work with you to develop a plan.
Well, in some ways, it will possibly streamline your job, so you're not having the district, the things that come out from our evaluation, and then you're developing an improvement plan for the
Right.
county that
One would hope
sometimes
that
is
all,
in line with us, but not always.
right, one would hope that all of the different objectives and plans and goals can all mesh, because that makes a lot more sense if they do.
Hopefully.
Yes.
I wouldn't have chosen to say it that way, but I would say that for a strong performing superintendent, I would manage that, that this would only strengthen the relationship with the board, which may not be the case with a weaker performing superintendent. So I would look forward to this process. I would, however, suggest that we try to accomplish it well before July 1st.
Yes, I agree.
Great. 1320, duties of business administrator board secretary. Dana's looked at this, of course, and we eliminated references to the treasurer of school monies. Does anybody have any questions, comments on this? Great. 2110, our mission statement. In reviewing it, the committee just recommended that the last sentence be added. Otherwise, no changes were recommended by the committee. Yes.
Well, the committee didn't really recommend that. The committee was forced to include that because it's required to be in the mission statement policy, right?
I stand corrected.
Could you please explain that?
We get direction from Strauss Esme about what is required to be in policies based on statutes or law or things that come down from the Department of Education, and that was a line that has to be in your mission statement. Now, we had issue with that because our mission statement is developed with our community over a long period of time, where specific words are talked over for long periods of time. So we thought that not including it in the paragraph and setting it aside was a way to deal with it.
Yeah, I will tell you that when this regulation came out, I know how hard this community has worked to develop that mission statement, and it's been changed every 5 years. It's been looked at, and words have been debated. Anyone who's been on the strategic planning committee knows that every word is...
Days over words.
Yeah, that's right. And I said, and you want us to just put a sentence in after all that community work? So I convinced one level of the state that no, we didn't have to, but it is the requirement, honestly.
So I will personally object to it. And I didn't know who I was objecting to, but I'm happy to object to the state. First of all, the statement doesn't belong here. Our mission statement does not include that. It certainly could be a belief. It could be on an expectation policy.
Can we add a line saying, the
As
following is
required by
required
state."
by the state and is not part of the Westfield mission statement? Could we say that?
But it was not proposed by the strategic planning committee. It was not
First part
voted
of
on
that.
by the board. And I thought I had the floor, and it doesn't belong in our mission
Sorry.
statement.
I mean, I don't have any objection to adding that language, Mitch.
So is
At
this,
as required by the state. I mean, how does everybody else feel about that? Jenny?
is this listed in our regulation book now? Is it part of law?
It's,
Did you find
I
it?
know it's a regulation, I have seen it. I can't remember whether it's code or statute or accountability
Is
regulations.
this the reference?
I can't even
Otherwise,
find
it
the
should-
minutes. Was this you?
It really should be referenced per whatever the
Mm-hmm.
specific
Code is.
code name is. This district is required to provide the following statement, which is not part of the mission statement. I mean, I don't agree that it should be there at all, but I don't object to the expectation, but I object to its position.
I agree,
Exactly.
I agree.
Well, we could
What's your objection? I agree with your
certainly
objection.
find
Yeah,
out
I'm
where
not
it is and
finding-
specify it.
I brought all my notes, but for some reason I'm not finding that in here. So, I'm not recalling the conversation at the policy level as well as Roseanne is. So, Do we need this one?
Yes.
Well, why don't we just, can we agree to that you will add the specific reference to what is requiring this sentence? Does that cover it?
As required by
Whatever it
statute,
is.
Right.
whatever.
I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
there are
The last
sections of
sentence.
Strauss Esme that you can choose
Yes,
to
yes,
include
right,
or not.
absolutely.
Right, right.
So this was obviously not a your choice.
Right, correct. It was not an option. It
Okay,
was
and
a
this New Jersey
When is it
statute
required?
attribution is nothing different than what was there before on the original.
Correct. The first paragraph is what our current policy states.
No, I understand, but this NJSA
Is it the same?
is the same as what was there before, so it's not helpful to
In
relate to
this
why this is,
conversation.
Right,
yeah,
for the second paragraph.
so it needs to be, we need to embed something as required by some statute level that will.
Okay. We will.
The following statement exists.
Yep.
Right.
However, that's just making it longer.
I don't care about longer, I care about the fact that
these
this
are
is
not our words.
This is not our mission statement.
You know, but it just kind of calls attention to it, and it's not something we object to. I mean, you don't object to the intent of this sentence, right?
But I object to its placement.
Well, so do I. But I'd hate to put a disclaimer on it, because it sounds like the board is not in favor
Well, then
of
make
pupils achieving.
make it so that we're in favor of it, but not placed here.
We're just citing the requirement,
I know,
not disclaiming it.
I know, but it sounds like we're being coerced to put it there.
We are.
Which I realize we are.
Hello?
No, I know, but
Well,
it has
I-
a negative connotation to it. That's what you're saying.
Well,
I
that's-
understand that. I agree.
Well, figure out the words that it
Drawing
doesn't come off
attention.
that
Put it
way.
in another
It's
language.
drawing attention to it.
Just a thought. Put it in Latin.
It's not on any published thing from the state yet.
Right. All right, we'll figure it out. We'll.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be okay with it if we do that?
Nobody agrees with it. That's nobody's mission.
2132 school district objectives. This language is from the strategic plan. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, Ginny.
Um, So, yeah, this comes right from the strategic plan, doesn't it?
Yes.
So every time we update the strategic plan, presumably we would update this policy. I think it might be, okay, so let's see. I had two comments. There should be attribution of the beliefs category, I think, to the strategic plan. I don't understand why the goals would be in here on an annual basis.
No,
Because we've never updated this policy before annually. In fact, the last time it was updated was 2000, so there was never an attempt to represent current goals,
I think those.
and current annual goals.
These are not the current district goals, they're the goals that the strategic planning committee came up with.
That is correct.
5 years ago.
Those
Well,
all-
then they should be stated as such.
Okay, what, do you know off the top, you don't know off the top of your head what they're called, what they're referred to in the strategic plan other than goals?
maybe goals from the strategic
No, I
plan.
mean, I don't know, I mean, we can, I have the strategic plan.
I would do that, just reference the name.
Just reference it as a starting point.
Oh, look,
Here.
I just found the Strauss Esme thing.
You know, just say the 2010-2015 Westfield Public Schools Strategic Plan adopted the following goals,
Okay.
or
Right,
something to that.
here is the strategic plan. Okay.
Just to go back, because I found in my
Yes.
notebook, the policy committee conversation about 2110, and the Strauss Esme, it just says mandated, and it has that sentence. And the statutory site is not even listed in Strauss Esme. And so my notes from the policy committee meeting was that what we wanted to say was as required by law. So that just didn't get put in, so that would be my suggestion for how we handle. If we can find a more specific reference, we will. I just wanted to, because I don't know if it is law. We need to figure that out.
Right, exactly.
All right, so if we change back to 2132, if we change the goals, we're good? Okay. 2312, class size. A lot of these we're looking at because the policy committee in its annual, we're taking chunks, and every year we're looking at different sections of the policy. So this year we're on the 2000s, and that's why we're looking at a lot of the 2000s tonight. So 2312 is the policy. If we added, well, does anybody have any questions? The first sentence was taken from the prior policy. Does anybody have any questions about the policy on class size? Comments?
I have a question. The first sentence in red, what do you mean was taken from the prior policy? It looks like it was added. The Board of Education directs that the number.
Yeah, it was. You know what? I have, when I printed out what Rosemary gave me, I don't get the red because I don't have a percent. That's why I stopped myself. It was added. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And so what was the thinking behind it?
I believe that
We
came,
liked it.
yeah, I believe maybe that came from Strauss Esme,
I-
and
we-
the policy committee thought it was a good
Oh, we
We
introductory
liked sort of
sentence.
the introductory
It wasn't,
overall.
it wasn't our initiative?
That's my memory.
Okay.
And then the rest of the policy was our existing policy.
Yes,
I'm just looking at my notes
okay.
that are circulated to the full board after our policy committee meetings. Let me see if I can find out
Which I have memorized, but for the moment have forgotten.
specifically why.
Sorry.
If we had all iPads, we could all be looking it up right now.
And then we'd have to have passwords. Not all of us do.
Would that be more fun?
Yes,
Could've
it's
done
the
it in
first
advance.
sentence from the Strauss Esme policy,
Yes.
slightly modified.
Could you
add
give
to-
us a hint as to how we modified it?
Okay, so the old one says, the Board of Education directs that not the old one, the Strauss Esme said, the Board of Education directs that the number of pupils assigned to any one class be governed by considerations of instructional quality and economy of operation. We did not like the word considerations, so we put in the principles. Okay?
We didn't
Okay.
take considerations?
We didn't.
Okay, 2330 homework, so, homework, this policy comes to the full board now after months and months of work by SIP and policy and the administration. So I know there are probably questions and comments, and I'll open the floor.
Just have a general comment. Was the balance committee consulted on this?
Roseanne is on the balance committee.
As a
so-
member of the Balance Committee, I brought much of what was discussed from the Balance Committee that was attributed to homework to the conversations that I participated in.
Okay.
And I did alert and forward this policy to some of the key members in the Balance Committee, the leadership of the
Right.
Balance Committee, that it was up for first reading today. And I highlighted things that were added specifically or changed specifically due to the Balance Committee's conversations and initiatives. They apologize that they're not here. They had previous engagements that they did try to change, but they couldn't. But I do have initial comments
Great,
from them. So your answer is yes.
great. I'm really glad to thank you for doing that. I think that's really critical that we
I agree.
play along.
So does anybody have comments or questions?
I have one question, just on the, it's on page 1. There are guidelines, and this is on homework, and guideline number 4 is the number, frequency, and degree of difficulty of homework assignments should be based on the ability and needs of the pupil and take into account other activities that make a legitimate claim on the pupil's time. So I understand that from an individual perspective, but how would a teacher, to just make up a number, a teacher of 25 pupils, how would they possibly use that guideline when every student's doing different things and some have time for homework and some don't? And
Right, I think it's written fairly broadly intentionally, so for example, if you know there's an activity that is impacting an entire class, you might really take it into consideration for that. For example, if you're a 5th grade teacher and you know that night is the 5th grade concert, or you're a 4th grade teacher and you know that that night is the first instrumental concert, you might consider that when you're doing homework. Can they consider that this student has to go to their uncle's birthday party, and this student is going to soccer, and this one has religious school? No, you know what, they really can't.
so this actually is intended to be the higher level. I was
Yes.
reading it too specifically. Got it. Thank you.
And that was one of the comments or questions from, the comments I got from someone who read the policy, about what does that mean? Does that mean individualized, that each student is getting their own homework? Does that mean more on a broad level? So, I don't know if
I think it's
we
misleading.
clarify that. I don't know how, but if 2 people have brought it up,
If you just pluralize pupil,
Or give add an example that Dr. Dolan just gave. You know, a 5th grade teacher cognizant of a 5th grade concert impacting all pupils would
We don't do that in policy statements.
give an example.
Yes,
It would help.
then it's not clear.
the number, frequency,
That's
and
a good
degree of
example.
difficulty of homework assignments should be based on the ability and needs of pupils.
Well, I think the question is it meant to be at the broader class level, or is it meant to be individualized? Because it reads individual.
Well, I mean, it can also be an individual.
Right, I mean, I certainly don't think we want to eliminate a teacher's ability to assign homework to an individual student based on their needs, and so,
Right.
And that is done, and it is not done for every one of 25 children, but there can be, depending on the day, 2 children in the class that really need some specific attention for various reasons, and the teacher will make accommodations and make it clear to the student and or the parent. Now, I don't know if that says that clearly enough, but that is what happens in,
I mean, I guess we can say when possible. You know, when appropriate.
Well, should take that into account. The use of the word should.
I'm okay with it. I mean, do we feel strongly?
Now that I understand it, I'm fine with it.
This is not that this matters, but this is not a new statement in the homework policy. This has been in our homework policy. But it is interesting that it's coming up as confusing. Yeah, Brendan?
lawyer brings up a point that the word activities may be the thing that's really throwing it.
The number, frequency, and degree of difficulty of homework assignments should be based on the ability and needs of
Yeah, people can claim all kinds of activities.
Yeah.
other.
Unless you're just saying taking into account nightly school functions, you know, or something that ties it into an event at night.
Or
Well,
school
but I mean, it
activities.
says activities that make a legitimate claim on a pupil's time. I mean, certainly school concerts are legitimate.
Well,
Uncle
someone
Bob's.
could say, oh,
I
an
gotta
away,
get the
poker
next
game.
level of,
You know.
an away
World of
game
Warcraft.
is,
I legitimately want to play Xbox 9 hours a day.
It's
But
open
there-
to
and he's really
massive
very good at it.
interpretation.
There certainly can be legitimate reasons in a family. There is someone is hospitalized or whatever, and the teacher will certainly take that into consideration in a way that helps the student.
yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna say, you know, like what Brendan said, or, you know, they understand if they have sports and that's a commitment they make and they're not gonna use that as a legitimate claim, or.
Wait, I mean,
What if,
Yes, can we say take into account legitimate claim? No, not quite.
And can we make it individual and plural,
Discussion too, or
so that it does get to the notion of the band trips or the choral concerts?
Well, I mean, we can. The purpose of the policy is, I mean, if we think we need to,
Can I make a motion that we move this to the workshop? I think this is a really big policy, and I know we have a lot of policies to go through, and I feel like.
Can I make a motion that we not make that motion?
That's fine, I'm
Only
just.
because this has been through SIP 2, maybe 3 times. It's been in front of the policy committee 2, maybe 3 times. The
I
administration
know, I
has
just think
taken
it's
a look at
unfortunate
it.
on a night when we have 78 more policies or something. to go
But
through.
I don't think the other policies have much.
Can you just take this point away when you come back with the second draft? I don't think we're asking you to change the intent, it's just to try to clarify it.
So take it away. What do you mean by that?
Go back and work on it.
To try to reword it,
Yes.
to make clear Peg's example without
Yeah.
using the example.
Okay.
And that actually, this point flows through into the regs, so we'd have to.
Right.
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 Okay.
I did have one question on the regs.
Yes, I think we need to ask them. Just talking out loud.
Okay.
Okay.
Thinking out loud.
What is labeled, it says page 4 of 5 on the reg. Number 5 at the top. New assignments, it's the last sentence of number 5. New assignments should not be given over major religious holidays, school vacations, and long weekends, and be due immediately upon return. I don't know if immediately means that Monday, or that Monday you return, or that week you return. I don't, is Tuesday okay?
I think it depends. If there was a religious holiday for one day, let's just say it's a Friday, and then I think it depends, that's why it's vague. Because if there's a religious holiday on Monday, the students return on Tuesday, maybe the assignment is not due then, but maybe it is due on Wednesday. So it would be the second day. On the other hand, if they're away for a whole week, maybe it's not Monday or Tuesday, maybe it's Wednesday. So I think there has to be some judgment. How long is the break? And where does the break fall during the week? You know, is it a Monday or is it a Friday? I think I think you have to allow for some judgment.
My notes say that was a change suggested by high school administrators.
Which was suggested by the Balance Committee. But I do think, and I think it also depends on how large the assignment
Right.
is or project.
Right.
Because I think the intent, the conversations in the Balance Committee were that, you know, it's a vacation. If you're going away with your family on vacation, your kids should not be worrying about getting a project done. Whether, you know, even if it's given the Wednesday before vacation, so then they have the Wednesday, the Thursday, possibly the Friday, but then it's due the Monday or Tuesday they get back. And if it's really a long-term assignment, it should take more than those 3 nights to do. But if your family is on vacation, that's not what you want your child doing when you're on vacation. So I think that's the nature of the.
So the alternative to this language would be to put some sort of time, like 48
Right.
hours, and I don't know that
I
that's the appropriate response.
Right.
Well, what about just not be due with a week after upon returning from vacation or something? So not being due that week. Because there's plenty of times there's tests that Monday and Tuesday and projects due.
But if
It
you
goes
said
back,
you said
You basically take that whole next week out of play.
For any
tests or
big projects,
or-
projects to be,
It says any assignments, so that means you can't give homework, even a simple assignment.
it says new assignments.
Right.
It is always a balancing act because you don't want to take a whole week out of some work being done.
No, because you can be given work that week. It just say new assignments should not be given over those breaks due upon return. So I take that as assignments being given before that break, and then being due when you come back.
Right.
I think when you come back, the teachers can still teach, give assignments, but if it's a long project or an a research project, something they're working on for a while, it shouldn't be due that week.
It
But
shouldn't
again,
be?
if they, it would vary by what the example is, so Memorial Day weekend. I don't know that you'd wanna say you can't have anything due Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Tuesday might make sense, but Friday.
But then it goes
I mean,
back to what Roseanne's saying, they still are working that entire weekend on a project. They're not gonna get it done in one night.
Well, but it's not, they would only be working on a project that was given Friday before they walked out the door. Something that was given to them 2 weeks in advance it's not a new assignment.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if they're given it the day before break, and it's due that week we come back, they are still working on it that entire break, is my point.
But it could be a big assignment, it could be a little assignment. I mean, I think that's Dr. Dolan's point, is that we have to trust that the teachers have, you can use their discretion to.
I would love to be able to do that, but I don't think that's always going to happen.
I think that, I'm gonna build on what
Unfortunately.
Lucy just said, and I think that the intent here is that to give kids vacations. I mean, they have vacations, and I think that for the most part, teachers understand that. I think there may be some teachers who inadvertently or purposefully, because they have a lot to cover and are under pressure too to get things done, might not be realizing that they're giving assignments over vacation and expecting it to be due right when they get back. I think that that's not the norm, but I think it happens. And if your kids have the teachers, 1 or 2 teachers who might be doing that, it's your norm
Right.
for that semester or that year. And that makes it very difficult. So I think what this board can't do, because that's not our job, but what we can ask the administrators to do is to talk with teachers and understand the pressures we're putting on kids and families when those types of assignments are given, and really work with teachers who are doing it. Because I don't think all teachers are doing it. I think there might be some teachers doing it, and that those some teachers need to be spoken to, discussed with. I mean,
So do you really
I don't know.
think it's that?
I don't know. I'm only one
Do you all
person.
really
I only
think
have,
that?
I don't
sound
know.
like Gretchen now. Do you all really think? I love it. That it's a big deal to not have anything due that week we come back?
I think that puts too much of a constraint on teachers to get their job done when they also have lots of pressures to get through curriculum, to have our kids
I understand
perform
that.
at the levels that we're expecting them to perform at.
I understand that, but I have to say, as a teacher, and an argument I have many times with my colleagues is that we do feel under pressure, and a lot of teachers do give children assignments during the week off or a project to get done, so it's done on their time, so they can move on with their curriculum. And if you use your pacing calendar accordingly and you don't account for those breaks, it is a lot of pressure, and I don't think it's fair to the children not to have a full stress-free week off like we want. And I'm sorry, that's something I'm very adamant about. And there are too many children preparing, studying, reviewing, doing packets, doing research projects on their week off.
And the experience sometimes is different with the same class, but two different teachers. That has also been
Right,
not the
that's
norm,
not a
but
homework
that's
issue.
part
That's
of the
something else that
experience,
is, right.
So why can't it just be, why?
Here's one reason, because I feel like we're all trying to achieve the same goal. But if we just said that you can't have an assignment due the week after a vacation, so take that week out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the calendar we just approved. That would mean that there are 8 weeks in the school calendar that you cannot have something due, which is basically 2 months of time that we're telling teachers you can't have an assignment due, which would mean the other remaining weeks would probably get jammed up. I mean, that's a lot of time. So if you think about, there probably, maybe we could say there are some weeks that ought to be off limits. But again, just go back to my Memorial Day example, just just having Monday off to say that you can't do anything, have anything due Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and to do that over the year for 8 weeks, that seems like an extreme result. I don't disagree with the premise that,
Well, maybe over weeks that contain a religious holiday then. Because I know over Christmas break, that's a week that you seem to get bombarded with a lot of work.
Sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna say, however, in the high school, just to put this on the table, I mean, you're also teaching kids time management. Because when they get into college, I mean, they're
I
never
think
gonna
the
have a rule
I
like
agree. The high
that.
school's a totally different.
Well, I thought this
Yeah.
was specifically,
It
I thought
pretty-
the high
yes.
school administrators
Yes.
asked
Yes.
this. And I think
Yes.
high
Right.
school in particular, junior and senior year, I mean, they really have to start, you know, as I said, managing their time and being able to enjoy their family and enjoy holidays, but also take off, you know, an afternoon on Tuesday and Thursday to get their schoolwork done.
I agree. I see it. I personally see it less as a problem in high school versus 5th grade and 8th grade.
Really?
Fifth and
I was
seventh and
thinking
eighth
that
grade.
it's
I mean, that's been my
mostly a
experience.
problem in
That's
the
where
high
it's
school.
been more of an issue.
and haven't seen it in elementary and middle. There you go.
What if we were to say something along the
No,
lines
so
of,
everyone has different experience. I
Yeah,
think this is what it
right.
shows is that we all have different experiences.
what if we were to
It's
say
really hard
something
to-
along the lines of, it suggested that new assignments aren't to be due for this same number of days that we had off. So if you had
Oh.
So if you had Monday off, that means you can't have something due till
Yeah, but
Wednesday.
take a look at our winter break. That's
Why-
like
why
2
can't
weeks.
It's,
we-
it's
I
only
mean,
5
I
days
don't-
though.
I don't know how
I
much.
think that this, our
not
conversation
shocking.
just exemplifies that you can't, we have to purposely leave it vague. I mean, I think that otherwise it's gonna tie teachers' hands and restrict. I mean, so for example, so Will got an assignment Wednesday. It's due this Friday. It's like a big poster board. He has to pick a character and like write. He's in 5th grade. It's so if we do the week, then it wouldn't be due until next week. But it's really not. He can work on it over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's for sure. So I mean, I just think it's just so that's one example versus the
I
high
think it
school
all-
example. So
I
I just don't think
agree.
we can come up with a wording that's going to fit every scenario.
I agree, but I think it also depends on your child. You have one child that won't think about it Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is one of my children, and then you'll have the other one that'll obsess over it every day until it's done and will not enjoy it. It's just, I guess there's just too many varying degrees. I've seen teachers pile it on and then some get nothing, and I think it's a shame because I do think kids do need, whether they have to balance it or not, they need their stress-free time too, just like everyone else, to clear their head. And I just don't think it's fair that those weeks are always used to get caught up or to prepare or do something. It's so nice when my kids come home and they say, hey, so-and-so didn't give us anything because it's the concert tonight or because, it's a vacation. I respect that they respect them for that. And it doesn't always happen. I just really strongly feel that they there's too much stress sometimes put on them. And I know I'm on the total opposite of the spectrum with it, but I just see every day sometimes what that stress does to kids, and I just don't think it's fair, that's all.
And I don't think any of us disagree with you. I think we're just trying to formulate a policy and regulations that guides the teachers and it communicates what our concerns are, but at the same time doesn't tie their hands. Ginny, I know you've been waiting. I'm sorry.
I wanted to point out that the beginning of that statement, the first sentence, has a very reasonable, I think, approach where we're cautioning teachers to plan and announce homework assignments in advance. And I'm wondering, rather than highlighting this second sentence as a separate thought, whether some of the information could be incorporated into the first sentence, such as especially taking note of, and then, major religious holidays, school vacations, and long weekends. To some extent, so that it doesn't call out the concern and it incorporates it as a caveat so that there's a broader view. So
why
maybe
don't,
maybe
why
you
don't
could
we
take a
go
look
back
at
with
that.
that? And I think that's a good
I
suggestion.
think that does work, actually.
Okay. I think that does.
You know what, or piggybacking on that, if you're going to assign a long-term assignment, that it's well in advance and it's not announced the day or two before vacation, I guess.
Well, exactly.
That's my,
Yeah.
but I don't, when reading that, especially long-term, well in advance, I mean, so maybe that's a sentence that could be put in. New assignments should not be given without without well advanced notice before break.
Right.
So at least the child can work on it 2 weeks before or a week before, and it's not just stuck to that week.
Right. Okay, I'll work on that as well.
I had one other comment, but I can't find it. I mean, I know the comment, I just can't find where it is in the document. The comment is, it says that assignments should be given in all courses. High school pupils should be assigned homework on a regular basis. Both long and short assignments should be given in all courses. And I'm not really sure we need the all courses, because what if, a elective or a class doesn't
It's
require
the new
homework?
number 3 on page 2 of 5 in the regulations.
Okay,
Let's see
thank
where
you.
it's at.
There we go, thank you. So I think we should just take out all
Second
courses.
paragraph.
Second paragraph,
Okay.
second sentence. Both long and short assignments should be given.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's a good catch.
That was the balance
see.
committee, not
Where'd
me.
that come from? Is that purple?
I don't think that was, I think that was just blue, that's just black. I don't think that's,
Yeah.
oh, actually, no. I think, that is a
It
color.
is.
That's a new, that's a new, I think that's a new
I
paragraph.
don't know. Doesn't, it's like it might have been around.
Oh,
No?
School trips?
So, the plan of action will be, we'll work on this and then we'll circulate something to the full board so that we can finesse it for second reading.
Right. Okay.
Is that good? Great.
Gretchen,
Yeah,
there
I'm sorry.
there is a specific quantitative notation about the amount of time following guidelines for,
Yes, on
homework.
page 2 of 5, uh-huh.
yeah. And I wonder if there's any thoughts that
Well,
the committee would like to share based
No.
on their conversations.
as I will
did
let
go over that.
Roseanne.
I'm sure it went on forever.
Do you want to see on the math and the margins? I know
Yeah.
that Roseanne and Paul worked
The per
worked
week.
mostly
Yeah,
on
that's
this,
right.
and so I don't. Do you want to provide? First, we went to a night per night.
Yes.
And then we went to per week.
And then it went back to, now
And then
it's
we
per
went-
night again.
Then we went back to per night.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we went to per week,
what we found we were just doing is dividing it by 5.
right?
So if that's what our intent, if that's what our want was, just to divide it by 5, well then why not just keep it as nightly?
I
Well,
think.
it's,
I mean, like for instance, when it was per. At some point, it read grades 9 through 12 should have 120 minutes per class per week, 240 minutes for honors and AP. Do you remember when we went? It sounded like so many minutes, but then when you did the math, it worked. It just, we thought it made more sense to do a per night evaluation because I think at first blush, the per week was overwhelming.
so there was a lot of conversation back and forth of, do you even have times? What are the expectations of putting the times down? There was discussion of, is approximately the right word, is up to the right word? Because there are very differing opinions on the appropriate amount of time that kids are spending on homework. And then there is all of the issues of, it might take me an hour to do something and it takes Rich 15 minutes. So how can we expect, so that's why there are there are.
That's why we have all the language at the beginning.
That's why we have all the language at the beginning, that's why there are bands of time, and it really is guidelines. It's not that every teacher has to give that kind of, that amount of homework all of the time. So there was a lot of discussion about the time, and.
Well, I specifically note that the amount of time has been reduced, considerably reduced. And I'm wondering if that's appropriate, and under what guidelines is the board then, what is our takeaway when we're agreeing to significantly reduce it? And are we going to be measured based on somebody coming back and saying, you know, I'm over my limit of 120 hours, 120 minutes per night for an 8th grader, which is 2 hours, which seems like not a lot.
Approximately. So it could take more or less.
I mean,
I don't
actually,
think,
the 120 minutes used to be the old
Right,
guideline.
right,
Now it's up
right.
to 90. An hour and a
Right.
half for an 8th grader? That seems
a night.
pretty trivial to me. My 8th graders never did that, but then again,
That's a lot or little?
a little.
A little?
Plus
Your eight-
independent reading.
Wait, I'm just confused. You're saying you think an hour and a half for an 8th grader is
A little bit of
Too-
time.
She's saying
A
it's too
small
low.
amount of time. I'm just saying, it's hard for me to understand that unless we have a real philosophical statement that says our students are spending too much time, they're capable of doing their work a lot quicker, or they're spending too much time doing homework, and therefore we want them to have a balanced life, more wellness, different activities, they want time to do things, and therefore we're gonna reduce the time that we expect them to do homework. Is that what we're saying?
Well, first of all, homework's a review of what you've done during the day.
Well,
So
possibly it could be
personally,
an extension,
Sometimes.
it
it's
could
not
be an
even
introduction,
always
it could be-
necessary. So
Well, is
an
that
hour
our
and a half for
philosophy?
an
It's not
average
necessary?
child, you're taking into consideration someone might take quicker, it might take 3 hours for someone else. So I don't think that's too little.
Well, I definitely think we want them to have a balanced life.
Yes,
I mean,
To
We
give
put that into
homework
the mission
unnecessarily is
statement. That
not
was a
important
big
either.
right.
Right.
so.
And I just, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard for me without any research that says, you know, what's current, what's appropriate, I don't know that in
There is-
2001 it was any better statement than it
There's
is in
research supporting that it
2014.
doesn't help.
There's,
So I haven't been presented the data, we don't
saying
have that. I mean, I don't know that it's better or worse, I can't tell
from what?
from what is.
And what is? I
Okay,
these ridiculous drafts. I can't even.
Yes.
figure out
120
what-
minutes.
So anyway, I can't make a determination because I don't know on what basis.
Never mind.
well, the
This
basis, it
data
was based
represents
on a
anything.
bunch of things.
Well,
Input
Would that be
from teachers, supervisors, principals, parents on the balance committee, people represented on the SIP committee, people represented on the policy committee, and the fact that it's guidelines and approximately, and the fact that I can assign what I think is 30 minutes worth of homework, but it might take Ann 15 and it might take Rich an hour and a half. So these are guidelines. This is saying that the district does think that homework has a place in the way we do our business of educating children. And that the amount of time kids spend on homework should progressively get longer as they get older, and as they take more difficult and complex classes.
Well, rule of thumb is 10 minutes per grade, so that's kind of following that rule of thumb.
So that's where these came from, using what we started with, looking at other districts and other homework policies, and then taking a holistic account of the very, I want to say, there are a lot of reports and research done on homework, some of which say completely opposite things.
Yes, that's
Yep.
So
That's what I was trying to hold back.
So,
We all know that. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, I wonder if we even.
no, I
I
mean,
look
some,
to Peg,
no,
like,
no, no,
why-
I'm,
no,
I'm
no.
saying that some of the research says homework doesn't work at all.
Yes,
No, I
that's
know,
what
I
I'm
know.
Some of
saying.
the research says you have to have homework, but it has to be a certain kind of homework.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
then, that's what I mean by,
Right.
So-
There research on different sides, absolutely. And
How can
I
we
think
even
it's like,
mandate the timing? I guess that's what's so
that makes it-
confusing to me about mandating. I mean, this has, I guess, been policy for years that, we put, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, an hour and a half. I don't.
Well, first of all, it's not mandated. I mean, it basically, the opening paragraph says it recognizes all of the factors that should be considered when a teacher assigns homework. The different pace that students work at, the discretion to how much should be allotted, if children are consistently having a difficult time, all of those factors are stated, and then it just said, these are guidelines, because if we don't put guidelines, then when it's over the top, we don't have a place to go back to.
and truthfully, what any type of research shows you that if you put your time into sports, my guess is you're going to be better in sports. If you put it into music, you're going to be better in music. If you put it into academics, you're going to see growth there. The rest of the policy talks to the fact that it should be thoughtful homework. There are a lot of examples of what the homework should be like. Now, thoughtful homework can be practice. It can be drills. If you're learning a skill, that's not a bad thing to go over something every now and then. If you're learning a broader understanding, you're not going to learn it by doing the same thing over again, and so the assignment should be completely different. But truthfully, how our children spend time will impact what they're going to do later in life. And yes, we want to balance, we all look for that. We're not all good at it, but we all look for it. We want to balance, but some of that time should be spent in practicing and preparing and thinking about academics. And as is noted in a separate paragraph we haven't talked about, and some time should be spent on reading. That's just a constant, and the students and the families can choose what it is they're going to read, but that time matters. If you don't do that, you're not going to develop that, whatever it is you're reading. And we need all of the kids for the future to do that. So I think that's the overall. Is there really a magic number? No. Can you find all sorts of studies? You absolutely can, good ones and poor ones. But if it's thoughtful homework, that's a good use of student time.
I think it's a perfect word, thoughtful. 'Cause that's what it needs to be. It's thoughtful. Not just given.
I agree that the numbers, quantifying it is somewhat arbitrary but there has to be some guidelines, I guess.
It's just a broad guideline.
It is,
what
and I
it
think
is.
it's
has to be
they're
guidelines.
reasonable. They're completely reasonable.
And it's arbitrary because of what I had mentioned before, that it could take, you
of course.
50 minutes an hour, me an hour. But if, and it says in the policy, if your child is spending way more time than what's identified here, you
Talk to
should
the
be
teacher.
talking to the teacher. And or, is your child really doing the homework when they're older, or are they in their room on Facebook and then, texting their friends and,
Right.
All over.
yeah.
I also do just wonder, because technology is just changing all of our worlds, the next time we do this policy, and I don't think Gretchen is hoping that's in the near future, but the next time we do this policy,
1 a.m.
how will that, how will homework change? Because if you're doing a
Right.
lot of your homework online,
No, it is changing. Homework is,
Absolutely.
it has to change, and there are districts that are being very aggressive about doing the change now. I don't know what's right. I'm not an educator. I don't know what's right.
but you wonder even if it's going to change the timing even.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Well, it will certainly change how people know when they've started and stopped.
And certainly a lot of our students are doing a lot of homework online right
Right.
now, by the way, especially at the high school. They're
Yeah.
doing a lot of it there.
Right.
For 6 through 8, should we clarify that that's for all classes? Because at the elementary level, it's pretty clear that the student only has one teacher. And at the high school, we say it's per course. Because if you look,
Right, I see.
if you're not reading it very carefully, oh, my homework level gets cut in half as soon as I go to high school.
Well, it says
But that's not what,
per academic course per
Right.
night. Don't you have that?
For the high school. Yeah.
You know, but for 6th to 8th grade, it's 45 to 90 minutes for
Per
total.
night.
Should it say total or?
Says per night.
No, but I
don't think
understand
you
what
need it.
I
Yeah.
understand what Brendan's point is.
I don't
that-
think we need it, but
Yeah, I don't think so either. I
Okay.
think that the courses are, there probably are some that don't have any homework for the most part. And unless we, okay.
I'm done.
You done?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
2340 school trips.
doesn't it feel good to have gotten the conversation?
Look, I'm not suggesting that we
Right.
shouldn't have had the conversation here. I'm glad we did. We don't have to have this detailed conversation about all of them, but that was certainly one that warranted
Right.
our attention and time. And we'll continue to talk about it as we make additional changes. 2340 school trips. So this one has also recently been before the board and was tabled. It has been, along with 8660, which we'll get to in a little bit, transportation by private vehicle, gone through the administration a number of times, gone through the SIP committee a number of times, and come to the policy committee a number of times. So, this is where we are now. There has been some revision from a previous meeting that the administration had with Rick to address some concerns about, no, you know what, I'm talking about 8660, so never mind. So this is where we are with 2340. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Ginny, I actually found notes that you gave me in the August meeting, some of which are just, grammatical tits and stuff, and I'll make sure they get in for the second reading.
And tell me about the chaperone situation. How did we state that? I see it's
Tell me
called out
what
in
page
the
you're on
reg.
now.
Well, it's in the regulations.
Page 1 of the
Page
reg.
1 of the, at the bottom.
Okay, so you went to history, then I gotta look back at all my things. I think one of the things that we talked a lot about was that there would be at least 2 adults
Right.
in sleeping quarters.
Yes.
Who are, when chaperones are sharing sleeping quarters with students.
Yeah.
I don't
The rest
know
were
that
the-
there were any other significant changes.
Right. Yeah,
And that those chaperones must be the same sex.
Yes,
Right.
I see that.
But those are the the guidelines we have followed previously. the
Yes.
numbers.
All right.
One of the things that we attempted to clarify is that there are, we wanted to be clear that any trips that are happening that aren't pre-approved by the board are not school trips and do not fall under this policy. And I think that there's been a lot of conversation about that, so we attempted to clarify it. Otherwise, I think that was it. So we're good?
And
or-
so where is that statement? How is that memorialized?
So,
Third paragraph
Yeah.
of the policy itself.
Okay, are not sanctioned school trips?
that are not approved by the Board of
Okay.
Education, but do not include but do include employees of the district.
Okay, yeah. And then is there anything in particular about,
I should just say, I'm sorry, just about that point is that our goal is not to push trips involving district employees out of the policy. What we're hoping to do is to get compliance with the policy. So, which just requires advance notice and approval from the board as a whole. So, I'm sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
well, yeah, it's a curious presentation of that idea because it starts with the negative statement, overnight and international trips that are not approved by the board, as opposed to the fact that those trips don't even come to the board for approval. You know, it's not that they're not given approval because they're seeking it. These are trips that don't even seek approval.
Where are you?
I'm just talking about.
I think
not
it's just a
anywhere.
recognition of something that's happening. And
Yeah,
so-
exactly. Exactly. It's the second sentence of the third paragraph, page 1 of 2, on the policy statement. Overnight and international trips are not approved by the Board of Education. It's not that they're not approved because they're disapproved. The point is that they don't even seek approval.
Well, we can clarify that.
Yes, that do not seek approval by the Board
Right.
of Education.
Yeah, we can say that.
Not seek approval or are not
That might
approved.
clarify a little.
Yeah, or both. That do not seek approval or are not approved.
Yeah. I
There
think
we
that's
go.
helpful
That's
because-
good, yes,
because it's,
absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
There are those
Yeah.
trips that are sponsored by employees
That
that
are
don't
great
choose
trips.
to become
Right.
school-sponsored trips.
And my hope isn't that those trips go away, it's just that they come within the fold, if possible, to the extent they can be.
Right. And then the only other mention of international trips is on number 5 on page 2, is that true? And we're making no other comments other than that they should be scheduled during vacation. So we've taken away high school from, as a
Right.
criteria.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
In an effort to bring those other trips into compliance.
Yes. Okay, are we good?
Yes.
That's good.
2530 selection of resource materials.
I just have one comment.
This is another one that's been through SIP and policy a couple times. Go ahead.
In our old policy, we had a section in the regs at the end about gifts. And I think we should include that back in the regs. And it reads, gifts will be accepted at the discretion of the content supervisor and/or building principal when they meet the same standards, or we should say criteria, the same criteria as that of the original purchases. Anyway, I'll send it to you.
Where is that,
Oh.
Roseanne?
It's in 2 of 2 of our current selection of resource materials. And then all gifts must be approved by the
Oh.
superintendent and Board of Education.
Section C.
Yes,
So section C was removed?
yes, I think inadvertently, right? I mean, I don't think that was a conscious effort,
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good catch.
yeah.
Are you okay
Could
if we
we-
add that back in?
Yes,
Could-
but honestly,
could
you're gonna
you-
have to tell me again where it is, I apologize.
It's original,
It's in the original.
Well, it
It's in
won't
the
say
original.
library media specialist anymore, it'll say content
Yeah.
supervisor.
could you specify that it's gifts of
Thanks.
resource materials as opposed to just gifts?
Yeah.
In the title and in the body. It does seem curious, doesn't it?
The other, another change that we made is, to be completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure where this came from, but just because we've been getting them from all over, but if everyone's okay with it, on page 1 of 2 of the policy itself, adding in number 1, that the criteria should be used in the selection and recommendation of resource materials, that the resource material should, and this is the new language, 1, support the educational goals of the district and the objectives of individual schools and specific courses.
Where are you?
It's new language. Do you know where?
I know where it came from. It came from our old policy,
Okay.
and it, again, didn't make it in,
Right, so if you look at the old policy,
I think.
page 1 of 2 said, it was the first bullet, or not bullet, but the first number, 1. Support, that the resource material should support the educational goals of the district and the objectives of individual schools and specific courses. Somewhere along the way, that got cut out and we're putting it back in. Okay? 3221 and 3223 are new
I just went out.
are basically overhauled policies that reflect the implementation of the Marshall Plan. Barbara spent a lot of time, and we, at the last policy committee, we also spent a lot of time trying to just clarify the regs and the evaluation. Anybody have any questions on the policy and the regs? Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
I do. So was this reviewed by our district evaluation committee?
Do you know the answer to that?
Individuals, but not as a full committee.
Is that a good thing? Is that an omission? Is that a bad thing? Is that just the way it is?
Honestly, I don't think there was really all that much leeway for changes, so much of it was mandated. It was reviewed to make sure, and we added where Marshall might have been a little bit different than other systems, but in general, if you look at it even, you can tell how much of it is just a restatement of code, of the new code.
So, so pardon me for not paying attention to your opening statement, but this came from Strauss Esme?
It did, and it reflects the new law for
Yeah.
for the valuations.
Yeah,
And
I see all the citations.
Right, and so what Barbara did and what the policy just followed up on a little bit is just trying to clean it up to make it, number one, consistent with our district. For instance, a couple of the definitions were changed to reflect what we refer to as supervisors, and then just when references could be made to the Marshall Plan, since that's what we've adopted, we did make reference to that.
And Barbara also referenced, there were other documents that the District Evaluation Committee has either reviewed or participated in preparing, and those, the information that's on there, whether it's the timelines or the listing of how many of anything, that's all reflected in the new policy regulation.
So if this hasn't been to the district evaluation committee, has it been to the leadership of the Teachers Association?
I don't believe it has, but again, everything reflected in
So
it is.
statutory. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all driven by the statute for the most part. There's not a lot of leeway.
And actually, there's a district
Well,
evaluation
could I
committee on
suggest that it be-
Thursday.
We have a
Um,
meeting on Thursday,
Yeah,
with
on
joint
Thursday.
staff.
That it be sent to the committee and to the
Is this a CUSAC one?
WEA leadership so that it
It
can
is.
be reviewed?
We have time?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Well, it can
Yes,
be done after first
absolutely,
reading.
absolutely.
But I think it's
Yeah.
critical. I
agree.
you know, we're in negotiations right now, and it's part of,
Even if, yeah.
It's a
even if we
collaborative
were in
effort that-
Negotiations.
we certainly want to make sure that they have seen it.
Yeah.
So would your preference, Dr. Dolman, be to do first reading tonight and
Yes.
then send it?
Yes.
Is that
Sure.
acceptable?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
let's do that then. $3270 is another policy that we're looking at because of the upcoming CUSAC
What happened
evaluation.
to 23?
I'm sorry?
3223
3223?
for administrators.
Oh, I was kind of, I had grouped those together, I'm sorry.
Oh.
We can, and
All
just
of them?
talking about how they came to be, but we could talk about
Okay.
3223.
As well as 3270? Oh, no, just the
No,
two
the
evaluations.
two evaluation ones.
And what about the old policy that was called evaluation of tenured teaching staff members, 3222? Does that
It
exist?
is infused in the.
I thought so, but we didn't know that, did we?
And for the administrators, the different policies used to be separate for principals and assistant principals and supervisors, and those have all been combined into one now as well.
Well, that might have been in your time. Plus, we have one for evaluation of administrators on the books,
All right.
2007. So I would suggest that this also go to the administrators, if you don't mind, please.
Great.
And supervisor.
3270. Professional responsibilities, as I said, it's one that we're looking at for CUSAC. Any questions or comments?
How does it differ?
The second paragraph and the third paragraph are new. There were some slight changes to referring to lesson or unit plans instead of just lesson plans. Otherwise, I think we just cleaned up the language. We took out the last paragraph. Okay.
4146.
4146, non-renewal of non-tenured support staff employment contracts. We were looking at this for two reasons. Number one, because of CUSAC, and I think this also is one of the policies that made reference to the treasurer of school monies. So we eliminated that reference, but no other changes were made. Anything else?
Nope.
5200 attendance. So this one has a long and tortured history. We
As well.
We the policy committee, specifically Brendan, tackled. It was very chunked and did not flow very well, and so it was all combined. And was it 5200.1, 5200.2,
Yes, it was.
and so first, we tackled the policy. Once we combined it into one 5200 global attendance policy, it was circulated to the high school and, well, actually to all the building administrators who commented. And then once that document was finished, we then turned to the regs. So what you have been sent is the finished product. The regs were also subsequently circulated to all the administrators. Questions, comments?
Yeah.
Just two quick ones.
Yeah.
On page 3,
Uh-huh.
the last paragraph says, "No people excused for a religious holiday shall be deprived," etc. Just where we reference religious holidays, do you think we should add "or event"? Because it may be that there's a excused absence for some religious purpose that is not necessarily a religious holiday on a calendar. I don't know. Just thought holiday was pretty specific.
Was that in the original policy? For the
Event.
current? I'm not even looking at, I don't see the reference at all. I'm just wondering how it came to be.
Maybe we should say religious observance.
That's a good idea. Yes, and that is used.
A global
at other-
change instead of referring to, or say
Yes.
religious holiday or religious observance?
I think religious observant,
Okay.
Actually, it's in the original, it's in
Yeah,
the current
right.
policy as it is.
right.
And then
Doesn't
just,
seem to have given us a problem.
Right. It's not.
Nobody's come forward and said they're having a problem.
They will tomorrow, though.
I just had, and just one other, it's somewhat related, just on the regs, on page 1. Letter B, excused absence number 2. By the observance, says, by the observance of the pupil's religion on a day approved by the board as a religious holiday. Do we actually approve religious holidays?
You know, honestly, it's the state, it's the Department of Education that provides us each year with a list of approved religious holidays. I will tell you, it's many pages long.
Really?
So maybe instead of board, it should say,
By the state?
yeah, by the state.
It comes out of the DOE or from the state?
It comes out of the New Jersey Department of Education, yes.
Okay, we'll change that to state DOE then.
Thank you.
Cool, great. Wonderful. 5460, high school clarification, or high school graduation. Any questions, comments? It's been reviewed. This is the ESME policy. What you now have, as contrasted from our current 5460, is the ESME policy with policy committee changes in red and purple, which also incorporate Westfield High School revisions. So you'll see some of what was in our old policy has been lifted and stuck back in here. Yeah.
Okay, so on page 2 of 8, on the policy, the first line after number 11, credit means, and I guess my question was whose definition, but I see a citation. So whose definition of credit is this?
I believe it is through the code.
It sounds like code, right?
Yeah. It is certainly in every high school I know, so I think it's the code.
Okay. Number 1 on the same page, following below, the district shall establish a process. Do we have a process in place, or do we expect one to be established to approve individualized pupil learning opportunities?
We do have some of that, because we do have independent study. We don't have all of the examples that are listed, but we do have some examples, and actually have been talking about looking at some of the others that are listed there, that we don't now offer. But yes, we certainly do have some of that.
Right. Well, we don't have online learning, so it's not as if we have to have a process for everything that we don't use.
Right, but that's one that we continue to look at. As you remember, we've looked at
Yes,
it before, but we
yeah.
continue to
We
look.
can only hope.
And we do have some students who are in transition programs, students who might be classified, who are in some of the other examples that are given.
Okay. All right, the next page, page 3, number 2, the district shall establish a process for granting of credits through successful completion of assessments, blah, 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 blah. Is that in place? Or do we have to do that?
I believe we have to do that.
Okay. So I presume that would be reviewed by curriculum?
Yes.
And then the next page, number 3, another process. District shall establish a process to improve post-secondary learning opportunities. I don't understand what they mean by that. What do we have to have a process for if we offer an AP course? Did this came right from Strauss Esme?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't quite get it. What does it mean?
It doesn't seem as though
What
it's
does
structured
that
correctly,
mean?
that one,
No,
does it?
No.
Isn't it just the process by which credit is award, isn't that, that's the way I read it.
Defining the AP as an
Post-secondary
approved,
learning.
accredited college course.
Right.
Which it sort of is.
Are AP courses at the high school level approved college courses
Depending on which is.
or accredited college courses?
Not by
Depending
us, only by a college.
Right, and some universities will take that, but yeah. Right.
So I don't understand what this means. Like, what kind of process do you have to put in place for this?
Well, there's a process by which the district determines which AP courses it's gonna offer, correct?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're making a face at me, but I don't know what that means.
I
You
don't
don't buy it? What do you think it should, I mean, you,
I don't know what it's asking us to do. I can't define an expectation. I don't have an expectation for being able to comply with this.
But no, I think if you read it differently, though, it does describe an AP class. We do give credit for AP classes. An AP class is known
Okay.
as a class that is a college-level class.
Okay.
So I think that's all, I think it's just stating a definition of AP. I believe that's what it is. It might not be the way I would have written it myself, but I think it is accurate.
And on the final page, Gretchen, on H, reporting, is this a new report that we're gonna get?
Oh my gosh, excuse me.
The public meeting by the superintendent?
Yes.
And are we somewhere keeping a track of all the reports that we're expecting as a board based on our policies?
Roseanne.
Of course we are.
In Google Docs.
Yeah, somewhere, somehow.
We do have the regular ones that are listed, absolutely. Every now and then they put in a new one that we might, if we were.
Okay.
Oh, we better
Curious
move
on
on.
the tapes.
6470, quick, we have to hurry.
So I noted that the former policy had a regulations document, and I'm guessing it's been incorporated. But it noted basic skills, SRA, which is no longer in effect, and LEP, which was then ESL, which is now ELL. And here's the regulation. The board sets forth following procedures for high school graduation. I don't know that we need to treat these things separately. Basic skills.
Yeah, I think it got subsumed. Let me look at my minutes and see if I can figure out exactly what we did with it. Although, to be honest, this one may go back to Roseanne to some extent.
Hang on, I
Dr.
just
Dolan,
want
is basic skills
I'm sorry.
somewhere else in a policy for,
Basic skills is somewhere else, but I'm not quite sure what we're referencing here, Jan.
I don't know why that was there. I'm trying to figure it out, sorry.
We just got rid of it.
I've been waiting since 2005 or so for this conversation, finally
Yeah,
arrived
they've-
at the board table.
But if you see that, all of that references the old
We
code.
may be here till 2015. At least, so.
Well, this is the work of the board. If you don't want to make policy, you shouldn't be sitting here.
So that references the old code,
Yeah.
and basic skills is not delineated under the new code. Doesn't mean we don't do it, but it just means
Yeah.
it doesn't fall under high school graduation requirement.
Perfect.
Do we want to make specific references to the HESPA? Because if
Yeah.
the state comes around and changes the name of the test,
Yeah, we had this conversation at the policy.
Yes, we did.
Yes, I mean, do we want to? No, but I think
Do we?
we're required to at this point because that's the test that's in place, and then we'll just have to address it when they change the test.
So we'll see it again next year.
Could you just say, or successor test?
Oh, we didn't think of that.
Yes, that sounds good.
I like that.
I don't want to see this policy again.
That's good, okay.
That's good, I like that.
That is
Nice,
good.
Rich.
That is good.
Nice.
Okay. Moving on,
We are.
6470, payment of claims.
Gretchen, I actually have a recommendation for a change on page 2. I didn't pick this up before, but on the paragraph that starts with "the board must approve," the second sentence there gives me and the superintendent the ability to approve payments on an as-needed basis. Included in there should be health insurance because that does exceed $250,000. So depending on the timing of when the bills come in,
Right.
sometimes I have to approve that payment before it comes to you guys for approval.
Okay. Okay.
Is that premiums?
Yes, health insurance premiums, yes.
Does anything in the regs need to be changed accordingly?
I don't think
process
so.
it.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think so, no.
Okay, anything else? 6471, district travel. This is, this is a mandated policy. We do not currently have a Westfield policy, so this is the Strauss Esme policy and regulation. It has been reviewed by both Dana and Barbara, and the policy committee took a look as well. I believe that you'll see there was some optional language on page 5 of 21 that we opted not to include. Anybody have any questions or comments on this?
We don't have the version that shows this optional,
Oh, okay,
Information.
I'm sorry.
but it's all right.
Well, we didn't include it, so. It was just, it was language that,
Wasn't needed.
It was language that said
I know, I'm
teachers
just-
could, oh, sorry.
we rejected an option in the policy to allow for employee travel that does not exceed $1,500 to proceed without pre-approval of the board. Barbara opined that she believed there was an expectation in the district that employee travel be pre-approved by the board, and that employees had become accustomed to timing their requests accordingly.
And in fact, this policy does, and the regulations do follow what we implement in the district, but now it is written down on many pages.
One per employee.
6810 and 6820, I'm actually gonna talk about them together. These were both are related to CUSAC. They're both mandated policies. They were looked at thoroughly by Dana and also were sent to the Finance Committee. Any references to the treasurer of school monies was removed. And actually, with respect to 6810, we are adopting the Strauss Esme policy and regulation. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. 8660, I think I mentioned before, this one has been previously before the board, and then we tabled it. We worked on it in conjunction with the school trip policy. There were a lot of conversations between the SIP committee, the policy committee, the administration, and with Rick Capello about concerns about having students using private vehicles, what is required of not only students but any individual who's driving our students in a private vehicle. We attempted to clean up the policy just to make it more comprehensive. And so that's why there are blue changes, purple changes, red, and green, because they come from all over. It's like a bad bruise.
I don't think we got the blue, purple, green.
Okay, well, if you have, I'm sorry, if you
Would've been
have,
nice.
specific, I can tell you who made what, if there's like if you have a question about a specific line or paragraph.
Well, I'd like to know if it was taken out and why students cannot drive themselves to from a field trip. Because that was in
An earlier proposal.
an earlier somewhere. I thought it was
I thought
in
it
current.
was left in.
Yeah, you see it somewhere?
No, they can do that.
They can.
They can.
And they used to not be able to.
It says here,
they could.
right,
Sorry, go ahead.
right, what we took out was that they shall not be permitted to drive themselves. And now we have just applied all the provisions that we applied everybody else to them.
So I'm wondering why at some previous time, we didn't want them to drive themselves or other students, and now it's okay.
So that was proposed as part of this, but honestly, when our high school students have opportunities for a variety of different state events, If we did not allow that, our students would not be able to participate. And what we felt after much discussion, as you said, what we felt was if they're following all the regulations and showing us proof that they are properly licensed and have the proper insurance, and clearly their parents have approved them to travel to whatever the event is, then that's what's required. So this policy allows for that because, again, we would have some students not able to participate in some interesting events if we did not allow that.
Good. There was also something in a prior, actually it was a June, I think, level recommendation that said approval cannot be given to anyone other than employees, parent, guardian, blah, blah, blah.
If you give
And
me
and
a
that's taken out.
paragraph or a page number, I'll try and,
It's hard to do. It used to be the third paragraph in the June version. No person shall be approved as a driver for the transportation of pupils in a private vehicle who is not an employee or parent or guardian of a pupil enrolled in the district. I didn't know why it was there in the first place, and I'm just wondering why it's not there now.
I think that part.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely
If it-
related to the other.
Yeah. I just don't,
we continue to encounter examples in which our students were being limited from participating in exciting events if we were limiting it to just a board or a district employee or a parent or guardian, so.
And we certainly still have examples where parents are still bringing students to special events.
Dana, the forms that they fill out, do they release the district from liability for like if there's an accident or something?
That's what we've been striving to do with this policy and with what we're asking for parents to give us and proof of their driver's license and their insurance and everything else.
But this policy doesn't do it. So
Well,
this
it-
just requires forms.
Well, it does say that right, I mean, it does require permission slips. So not only do we document the individual driving, but any student riding in that car has to provide us with a permission slip.
They have to follow the regulations of the state. I mean, they may be 17 years old,
Yes.
not
Right.
allowed to have,
That's
Right.
correct.
That was in here, so that's in there in the second page.
But it just,
As well.
but that's different from a release, right? So,
Right.
So-
What they're signing has been reviewed by Rick Caplow, so I don't, maybe I'm not sure what are you asking if there's a
Do we still have a
waiver, basically, of liability?
yeah,
It's a permission slip, I don't think it's a waiver.
huh. So that to me is very different.
Paul, do you remember what the language is on that? No. But I think it's a permission slip.
is there an opportunity to put a waiver of hold harmless on a permission slip?
I would.
Is there any reason why we shouldn't?
Didn't we talk about it? I know we talked about it, but the committee hasn't seen the form, so I don't know.
Yeah, I have, and I believe that there is a waiver or a release, whatever the proper term is, but I'm just not positive of it without it in front of me.
Could we check that?
Sure, we can check that.
So, I mean, I'm happy to approve this, but I'm doing it on the assumption that's in there.
Yeah.
I thought that was the reason why we were thinking of not letting them drive, is because we weren't sure if the liability was still on us. I thought that's what we talked about in the,
But then the lawyers and the insurance companies looked at it.
right, and said it was okay.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it is on there.
Yeah.
I just hate to tell you that when I am not 100%
Right.
sure.
Well, I guess
We'll check to make sure.
the point is that to the extent that we can cover ourselves against the liability, we should do so
do that.
in whatever language we can. And then, I mean, you have to face your day in court.
Right.
And I assume the permission slip states that a student driver and lists the name of the student that would be driving and all that stuff.
Yes. Yes, and to Mitch's point before, references under existing state law for driving. You know,
Right.
whether you're allowed to have passengers or not and all that.
Right. 80, I think this is the last one, 8740. So this is the Strauss estimate policy, which would replace the board policy as per Dana. The Strauss estimate policy had some reference to the treasurer school monies, which we deleted. If we haven't on the version you had, I think we might have missed it the first go around. Any questions?
No.
So I just want to, I mean, first of all, thank you for taking the time. Secondly, we cannot go forward without thanking Rosemary O'Shea for hours and hours and hours of time. And it's hard. I mean, as you saw me struggle a little bit tonight, some of these policies have been through so many iterations that to give you an answer as to what was versus what is now is sometimes a difficult thing. And so just thank you to Rosemary for all her hard work, and thank you all for going through them tonight. So,
Thank you.
Thank you and the
Yes,
committee
thank
for
you.
getting through them.
yeah, thanks to the
It's a
committee.
great deal of work.
You want to change it?
Yeah, change it now.
Yeah,
Just a second
okay.
left.
I think we have to vote, right?
You want, yeah, if you want to vote, then we'll change
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Rich Matasek?
Yes.
Lucy
Yes.
Beeler? Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yep. We're back to policies.
I would ask the board to consider policy item number 3 for approval of the Uniform State Memorandum of Agreement between education and law enforcement officials. Can I have a second?
Second.
I would ask Dr. Dolan to elaborate on that one.
Certainly, this is an annual event.
That was aggressive.
It's an annual event, and it's actually a great one, I think. Within the entire state of New Jersey, the local police chiefs meet with their accompanying superintendent of schools. The prosecutor's office and the state offices compile all of the different laws and code that are over how law enforcement and schools should interact for the benefit of students and community. That's all compiled in an agreement that is used throughout the state. In Union County, we then have a meeting where we, all superintendents in the county and all police chiefs within the county meet along with the prosecutor's office and also the county superintendent's office and spend a day going over the expectations, the changes in the law, et cetera. And that communication is just vital. So it's a very good process that New Jersey has, and every year it's brought before the board for you to review and for you to approve also.
And the agreement is up on our website as well, correct, for the public, or no? for
It's
us?
on the board
It's on the
website,
board
right.
website. So, any questions? Okay.
Rich Matasek?
Yes.
Lucy Beeler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
And finally, I would ask the board to affirm superintendent's decisions on HIB 14E02 and 14E03. Can I have a second?
Second.
Dane?
Rich Matasek?
Yes.
Lucy Beeler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Nothing further, thanks.
Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and programs.
Yes.
Roseanne.
No, sorry.
I'd like to ask the board to approve item 1, to approve the following district field trips as per attachment 6. May I have a second? Thank you, Anne. Any questions or comments?
Rich Matasek?
Yes.
Lucy Beeler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg? No, Mitch Slater?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the board to approve for first reading the following revised language arts curricula. Now, may I have a second?
Second.
These, I would like to, can I amend my motion? I would like to amend my motion. Do I have to get a second for that?
Second.
Thank
Well, you gotta
Wait,
hear it
listen to the
first.
amendment
Oh.
first.
It's not, I am not.
Second anything right
I would
now.
like to approve for first reading the following revised language arts curricula bridge documents. May I have a second?
Okay, I'll second.
Thank you, Mitch.
What is that? Okay, what do you,
What
what
is
do you-
that?
what is
Right,
that?
that's why I needed to. Do you want to just?
Sure, I actually think you're gonna have to amend again, but let me explain. So actually, what we're asking is that the curricula be approved with the bridge documents included in the existent. Okay, so let me explain
Oh.
first, and then we'll go back to the wording. All right, so we have approved language arts curriculum,
Yeah.
and they cite standards.
Oh, the bridge document.
Right.
Yes.
The bridge document aligns the standards noted in the existent curriculum with the Common Core standards. Okay. The teachers have been implementing the Common Core standards, but this is a bridge document to just make it clear how how you can compare those content standards. So I think you are approving the curriculum, and it includes the bridge document.
So you move to approve curriculum number 2 with the bridge documents, is that,
Yes.
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't understand how this works.
So in the curriculum, the standards that are listed on the left are used in the existent curriculum that you've already approved. Okay? They've now just been lined up to match what the newer standards are.
I'll explain a little further. Hopefully. The 6 through 8 language arts curriculum is set to be reviewed this year. So it has not been updated since the Common Core state standards were implemented by the state or required by the state. So while our teachers are using the Common Core within their instruction, our written curriculum document does not have the Common Core state standards identified in them. They have the old standards in them. As part of CUSAC, our curricula all need to be in line with the current state-approved standards. Because our curricula is the way it is in line with the Common Core standards. It's just the Common Core standards are not written in the document. So as a way for CUSAC, basically, we are providing these bridge documents until
It's formally written.
it's formally written.
Until we revise all the
Right.
curricula documents.
Right.
So this is our production, didn't come from the state.
Correct. So are there any other questions?
Frightening,
Yes.
just frightening.
All right, so I think we can vote.
Rich Matesic.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Gallagher.
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted.
Yes.
Jenny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yeah.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Anything else on SIP?
That's all for SIP.
Is this written for us?
All right, that brings us to finance.
So sorry.
I would ask the board to approve items 1 through 13 in finance.
Second.
Thank you. And I would specifically note items 11, 12, and 13. 11 being a monetary donation from an anonymous donor to Franklin Elementary School to be used to purchase books, supplies, and classroom materials. Number 12 being a monetary donation from the PTO to Franklin Elementary School for the purchase of 30 HP laptops and charging cart. And number 13 being a monetary donation from the PTO to Franklin Elementary School to be used for classroom and library materials. Thank you very much for those donations. Are there any questions or comments on the finance items?
I'm sorry, at the risk of prolonging the night, I do just have a question about 7, 8, 9, and I'm not trying to be sensational, it's just a question. Have we given any thought to putting those contracts out to bid?
For the architectural services?
Yeah, I mean, I know that we have a relationship with that particular firm, that I just want to know if it was a conversation that the finance committee had, if,
Now, the finance committee is, we have talked about professional services and have talked about looking at requests for proposals. In fact, we are going out for auditing services for this current fiscal year that we're in. And the committee has talked about looking at other professional services and maybe having a schedule of requesting proposals, but that hasn't been discussed for these projects.
I just know to the extent that there were miscommunications or not full communications during the roofing project, I just hope that with this, that we would, I don't know if there were or not. My sense was that maybe things weren't reported in a timely manner. That was the sense that I had during the roofing project, or that there were projections made which ultimately ended up not being accurate. And so I just want to have an open and full conversation about, making sure we're satisfied with the services that we're using, that's all.
That might be something that is discussed at another meeting, because honestly, at the committee level, not at the full board, but the committee level, I'd say we've had 3 big roofing projects and we're very pleased with the work. So while there are stories along the way with a large capital project, so that might be something to do in the future, so that so that there is an open discussion about it. But
Right, or just I guess, if I'm hearing isolated incidents, then maybe I guess I just need to pay better attention to facility committee notes which one to raise it?
right, no. So maybe we can plan that for our next meeting.
Ginny?
These contracts are to get the bid specs off of the ground so that we can try to get bids in the spring
Right.
to make sure, you read that?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, may or may not, depending on ROD
We
grants.
put in for grants, but we
Right.
don't know if we're gonna get them yet.
Right.
But if we do get them, we need to be ready to do the work.
And depending on the timing of the ROD grant and when we can use capital reserve, and that's all part of our conversation next week. But these projects may or may not get done this summer. That's all gonna be a discussion we have to have. But this was an attempt that if we are able to do them this summer, that we can get them started on.
Ready.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, we would probably propose these in any event.
Yes.
Right,
Right.
Without the
The
grant.
objective
We know
was-
we have to do these, and
Right.
the timing of them is gonna be something we're gonna have to work with on grants and within the limits of how we use reserve accounts and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
As I understood it, having sat in that meeting of facilities, we wanted this effort to get going because in any event, we were gonna do it regardless of whether we got the ROD grant. Of course, we wouldn't initiate it until we understood if we got the ROD grant or not. But we needed to get the background work accomplished so that we would be ready to go. That's what happened.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Rich Matesic.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yep.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Nothing else for finance legislation, again.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Technology, Mitch,
No report. Will be reporting at the workshop.
which is 1 week from tonight, right?
Yep.
Thank you. I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record.
With the following change, that policy 2265 differentiated instruction was reviewed with no changes by the policy committee on November 4th, 2013,
You're adding something?
with no changes.
So the note to the record is that the policy committee reviewed this policy, but the main point is that they didn't revise it at all. They don't only, they had no change, so we had agreed to do this in the past. Is that the same
Right.
comment on the
At the
At the
carryover?
very bottom
Yes.
of the page, of page 9.
And then the second notes for the record, after reviewed, again add with no changes. What?
On the top of the next page.
Thank you. Any questions? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Any liaison reports?
I attended the Roosevelt PTSO board meeting today, and last year they proposed putting together or building an outdoor classroom, and they reached out to the Ed Fund, and they received funding, and then the PTSO provided funding, and the outside classroom has been built, and they are looking forward to, I haven't seen it, so that they said it's completed. So
What
it's
school
not
is
as, Roosevelt, it's not as extreme as Tamaqua, and they're very excited about it.
And has the board approved that can be done?
No.
No.
So maybe, Dana, can you just have Mike look at what it, and you and Mike
He
look at?
has.
Okay.
It's-
It's not.
It's
the
not,
same
no, it's
thing.
not the Tamaqua,
It's
Okay.
a little
yeah.
Got it.
sitting area, I
Got it.
think.
Speaking of Tamaqua, I attended their PTO meeting, and standing room only, which I thought was
Oh, that's
really
great.
incredible for an elementary school PTO meeting, and some excellent presentations, mostly about their garden. They had food you could sample from their garden. They were selling cookbooks
Oh,
from their
that's great.
garden. I mean, they're just incredibly passionate. I was really, really impressed. Having, just was really impressed with what they're doing there. And it's a group effort. I mean, it starts from Mike Cullen on down. I mean, the teachers that were there were students there talking about it. I mean, it was a really they're doing some really great stuff over there. So I was really, really impressed. And I spoke to them briefly about the bond, but they're really doing great stuff over there.
Well, they're excited about it,
Yeah.
and they think the kids will get a lot of use out of it.
Yeah, and they tie it right into the curriculum, which is even
great.
even better.
Earlier in the month, I attended the high school PTSO meeting, and the new SRO, Jeff Johnson, was there. Gave a little presentation, answered a lot of questions from parents. Very constructive. I think everybody in the room has a better idea of what he's doing now. I planned on leaving until I found out that he was staying. He was speaking, and I wanted to hear what he had to say. So.
And in addition to that meeting, the new master technology teacher, Mr. Peasy,
Yeah.
spoke about the position and the work he's doing with the middle school teachers and the high school teachers about infusing technology within the classroom. And he talked a little bit also about being cognizant of various social media sites and how to work with your child so that he or she is using it responsibly and not in a way that is harmful to them or others.
Thank you for that, Leslie.
Thanks. Jeannie?
I attended the PTO meeting at McKinley School. Among other things, they discussed that they will be giving each teacher $150 from their fundraising processing. For book purchases, they have a leveled book closet where teachers can share purchased books for their classroom use. I thought it was a great shared resource. They mentioned we're never finished building our library. This helps us meet kids where they are. So this is the way that they are, rather than giving money to teachers and having teachers put books right in the classroom. This allows shared use throughout the grade levels and children's abilities. So I was very impressed with that. Did a nice job. And I attended the Union County Ed Services Commission meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, now I feel obligated to tell you that
Please.
I attended the Wilson PTO meeting and the Jefferson PTO meeting, both very well attended. The Jefferson PTO, the principal at Jefferson and a bunch of staff members talked about the Healthy You initiative that they have with the Y. Also, really exciting stuff going on there. My kid can't pack his own snacks anymore because they're not on the there's like a range, a good, a bad,
Yes.
a go snack, a no snack, and so everyone's learning from the whole thing. So, but that's all.
Anyone else?
I don't know where to put this. New business is passed, but we're just learning this disturbing news of different schools initiating situations within their school properties that is not coming to our attention in any manner.
So
Well, disturbing is your editorial version of it.
It is my
Right.
personal
Okay.
opinion.
Yes.
You don't have to share it, but I need to
I
express
don't
it.
know what you're talking about.
I think what was referenced before, and certainly Dana could provide more information, but my understanding is what was provided at that school is additional outside seating. The phrase used was an outdoor classroom, but it is not,
Oh.
it is outdoor seating where, yes, my understanding, and Dana was aware of it, as was Mike Morris, to make sure it follows all code, et cetera. But so students could be outside even as a class, but there's not a structure or anything else like that. It's seating to allow for that. So that's why it did not fall under what we would normally bring to facilities. Am I correct there?
I believe that's correct. And the funding for this came from them back in like May or June. So it was quite a long time ago that it started. So I don't really remember the specifics, but it was something like that. It certainly wasn't a structure or anything close.
Not like air conditioning.
Not like air conditioning.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Almost there.
With that, I recognize the public for questions and or comments on any topic.
Everybody jumping on.
Stand in line, please.
Seeing no one come to
No
the
pushing.
podium. We do have a private session, so I'd ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, personnel, pending or anticipated litigation, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Have a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? We are